Are there any constituency statements by honourable members? I call the member for Bradfield.
Thank you. Deputy Speaker, for my statement today I'm going to read out one of the barrage of emails that I've had from constituents about their experiences last year with cuts to the National Disability Insurance Scheme and pleading with me as their avenue of last resort for help. This email is from a resident of Willoughby in my electorate, and its subject line is a plea from a concerned constituent, the human cost of the NDIS in Bradfield. I am a speech pathologist from Willoughby, and I'm writing to you today not as a constituent but as somebody who recently had to walk away from a job that I truly loved. The reason for my departure was the immense emotional and professional toll caused by the recent devastating changes to the NDIS. I simply could not continue to bear witness to the daily heartbreak from the front line. Within days of these announcements, the sudden silence was deafening. Clients were forced to abandon therapy, their families no longer able to afford the services they so desperately need. I sat with parents and watched them weep from an unfathomable grief, the stress of being forced to choose between providing for their child for essential support or keeping their family afloat. It is the sound of a family's hope being shattered. My previous career as a registered nurse gave me a unique, and I would argue a painful, insight into the long-term consequences of this neglect. I've seen the future that these funding cuts are creating. It's a future where the most vulnerable individuals are stripped of their dignity. I've seen people who, without simple interventions, lose their ability to communicate basic needs like going to the toilet or to swallow food without the fear of choking. I've seen the slow, cruel erosion of their independence and the humiliating battles to perform the most basic tasks. This is not a sustainable future for our community or our country. It is a slow-motion catastrophe. These cuts will not save money. They will simply transfer the financial and the human burden to our already overwhelmed hospitals and mental health facilities, pushing out our burnt-out healthcare workers to their breaking points. Ms Buller, I'm asking you to look beyond the political rhetoric and see the human faces behind these policies. Please tell me you are against this. Please tell me that you're willing to stand up for these children, for these families, and the dignity of every individual in our community. My hope for a compassionate and healthy future rests with your willingness to act. I thank this constituent for her advocacy. I've heard you and I'm acting.
I call the Minister for Housing, Homelessness and Cities.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. And I rise today in solidarity with the Druze community and other minority groups in Syria who are facing violence and persecution.
Excuse me, Minister, there is a division and a division's been called in the House and proceedings are suspended to enable honourable members to attend the division. Is the Minister coming? No, right. Are there any constituency statements by honourable members? I call the member for Clark.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Deputy Speaker, I recently met with Justine, the mother of Abby, who was a bright, adventurous 10-year-old from Tasmania who was diagnosed with glioblastoma, a highly aggressive brain tumour. Abby was in grade 4. She loved animals, had a wide circle of friends and dreamed of finding good homes for rescue dogs. That became her wish through the Make-A-Wish Foundation. But despite 2 brain surgeries and countless procedures, Abby passed away at just 11 years old, at home in her parents' bed in June last year. Abby's story is obviously devastating, and her parents, sisters, family and friends grieve daily. Deputy Speaker, I also met with advocates and the chair of the Australian Brain Tumour Collaborative, and in this meeting I heard that while Abby's story is devastating, it is far from unique. In fact, each year around 2,000 Australians are diagnosed with brain cancer and fewer than 1 in 4 will survive 5 years, making brain cancer one of the deadliest diseases in Australia. Indeed, it claims more lives than our roads, kills more children than any other illness, and more adults under 40 than any other cancer. But while research into immunotherapy and precision treatments is advancing, still too many Australians miss out. Unfathomably, brain cancer receives less than 5% of total cancer research funding and consistently misses out on adequate federal funding for dedicated brain tumour nurse specialists nationally. Perhaps this is because the burden of the disease is not well understood and the marked level of disability associated with these tumours flies under the radar. Well, it hasn't flown under my radar, thanks to the passionate efforts of Janine and other advocates, and the fact that in regional areas like Tasmania, the burden is even heavier. For instance, families are often forced to travel interstate for care or clinical trials. Many navigate fragmented systems, disconnected records and inconsistent financial support. They fight battles on every front, whilst always being aware of how precious each remaining day with their loved ones is. Deputy Speaker, brain cancer may be rare, but its impact is not. So we should honour those like Abby and her family. And to that end, I implore all parliamentarians to attend the annual Brain Tumour Alliance event, Head to the Hill, here on the launch of Parliament on 28 October, and to meet with those people directly impacted. In closing, I call on the government to increase brain cancer research funding and to commit to sustainable investment in this sector. They must also prioritise dedicated clinical care and support services, and they should expand access to clinical trials. Because thousands of families, like Abby's, are relying on the government to do better. We must not let them down. Thank you, Deputy Speaker.
I call the Honourable Minister for Housing, Homelessness and Cities. And Honourable Minister, you may begin your speech again.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. I rise today in solidarity with the Druze community and other minority groups in Syria who are facing violence and persecution in Suwaida and surrounding regions. Speaker, recently I met with three greatly loved constituents, Imam, Safa and Hadi of the Saab family, who are leaders and members of our local Druze community in my electorate of Hotham. And they sat in my office, Speaker, and shared with me the most intensely distressing accounts of what's happening in Suwaida. I want to acknowledge the members of the Druze community that are in the gallery this morning. Speaker, these parts of our community are proud Australians, and today they are in enormous amounts of pain because of what's being inflicted on their community in their home country. Speaker, one story about a young woman who was afraid to leave her house because of her religion has stayed with me. There are threats of every heinous nature being made against this community. It's really hard for us in Australia to fathom how this must feel in a country like ours, where we live amongst ourselves with that strong belief that other people can have freedoms and that those freedoms will be protected. To the Druze community and to other affected minority communities in Australia, your grief is heard, your fear is understood and your resilience is so admired by your community. We thank you for your advocacy. It's because of your courage, your letters, your visits, your voices that so many of us in government are aware of the urgency of what is happening to your friends and relatives. Speaker, I've raised these concerns directly with my Cabinet colleagues, and I know many of them share the deep concern that I have for this matter and have reiterated the Australian government's call for Syria's interim authorities to protect civilians, respect minority rights and pursue an inclusive political transition. Speaker, Australia continues to support vulnerable communities through our humanitarian program and through international aid. Since July 2024, Syrian citizens have made up to nearly 1 in 5 of our offshore humanitarian visa grants, and we've committed $500 million in humanitarian assistance since 2011, including $30 million in this year alone. But I know that these policy updates and numbers and statistics can feel really distant and disconnected when your loved ones are in danger. So I really want to be clear. I stand with you and our government stands with you. We'll continue to advocate for the protection of minorities in Syria and for families here in Australia who are desperate for news, for safety, for justice. This is not just an issue in my local community, Speaker. It's a global call for peace and for dignity. I stand in solidarity with the Druze community and other minority groups in Syria and all people whose lives are threatened because of their beliefs. Thank you, Speaker.
I call the member for Baroa.
Thanks, Deputy Speaker. The Local Sporting Champions program provides grants of up to $750 for people competing in national or international competitions. It's a privilege to have a talented athlete in the family, but the associated costs can put pressure on the family budget. This program recognises that fact and hopes to provide a little extra bit of support. My community is filled with young athletes who have made remarkable contributions in their respective sporting codes, and recently I was able to congratulate several of them who were successful in the local para championships and the local sporting champions grant programs, hosting 2 very special ceremonies in their honour. These occasions are always highlights in my calendar because they bring together the best of our community, talented young people and their supportive families and the organisations that stand behind them. I want to first sincerely extend my thanks to the Paralympian swimmer Ellie Cole and the Olympian softballer Ellen Roberts, who came to present the awards with me. They are both fantastic Barara locals. They're an inspiration, demonstrating that with dedication, young sportspeople don't have to stop their sporting competitions when they leave school. Let me begin by acknowledging the para-champions. In swimming, Abby Gibbons, Elodie Sebri, Michael Williams have competed at national championships, setting benchmarks for others to follow. In athletics, Cooper Rob Jackson has earned selection for a 2025 Australian Under-20 and Open Athletics Championship, an achievement that speaks volumes of his talent and discipline. In wheelchair sport, Evander Conroy and Hamish Muir have carried the banner of our community with distinction, while Zara Perry has represented Australia in goalball, competing at the World Club Championships in Finland and the Malmö Lady Intercup in Sweden. Alongside them, our local sporting champions are making their mark in a wide array of disciplines. In athletics, Isaac Portelli, Matthias Hutchins, Sophie Cottrell, Anelia Knight, Zachary Leung, Cameron Leung, Jack Proudfoot, Ivy Yang, Amy Campbell, Thomas Scudero, Alexander Bradnell, Justin Billingsley and Blake Billingsley have shone at a national level. In the pool, Emma Cherry, Lily Summer and Alana Sumner have tested themselves against the country's best at national age and open water titles. Georgie Davidson showcased her ability at the 2025 Hockey Australia Under-16 Championships, while Curtis Pepper proved his skill at the Australian Rowing Championships. In team sports, Eva Zhang, Zach Mawson competed at the Australian Youth Water Polo Championships, and Ryan Chu represented New South Wales at the School Sport Australia Under-18 Years and Under Basketball Championships. And Kobe McPherson, Christian Morrison, Kai Ueki and Kim Sung featured in the National Basketball League competitions. On the international stage, Logan Bubb, Ava Jones carried the green and gold representing Australia at the Asia-Pacific Youth Touch Football Cup. Each of these athletes has demonstrated that success comes not only from natural talent, but from the discipline to train, the courage to compete, and the humility to represent their community with pride. As a community, we stand behind them. We'll continue to back their ambitions, to recognise their achievements, and to celebrate their journeys both on and off the field.
I call the member for Canberra.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. The Australian National University is an important institution in our city and for our whole nation. As the only national university established by federal legislation, it is unique in its remit. Its research is groundbreaking and it holds a level of trust in the community that is precious. But at the moment, the ANU is in crisis. Over many months, I've been hearing from countless ANU staff about the situation there, as well as engaging with the union, the National Tertiary Education Union. Many of the staff are not feeling heard, and they feel that the Renew ANU process is being driven without transparency, consultation, and without a clear rationale for the number of job cuts and other changes that are being made. These people are coming to their political representatives because they are not feeling heard, because they feel they have exhausted their avenues for feedback and that it's not being taken seriously. There have also, of course, been serious allegations that have come to light through the Senate Committee of Bullying and Mismanagement, and there's clearly been a lack of consultation and transparency. There have been announcements of the closure of incredibly important institutions, such as the Australian Culture and Society, institutions to Australian Culture and Society, including the National Dictionary Centre, the Australian Dictionary of Biography and Humanities Research Centre, unique work that doesn't happen anywhere else, as well as significant changes proposed to the School of Music with far-reaching consequences for the music ecosystem in Canberra and beyond. I've been incredibly concerned by what I've heard, and I've been passing these concerns on to the Minister for Education, directly to the Vice-Chancellor as well. And I was pleased to see that the regulator, TEXA, has stepped in and put the ANU on notice to ensure that they are being compliant with their obligations and these standards. I think it's incredibly important that at this stage that trust is restored within the ANU staff and community and the leadership if things are to in any way be rescued from where they are at the moment. The reputation and the role of this institution is too important to let it be destroyed, and serious action is needed to be taken. Deputy Speaker, this week we have learnt that Australian emissions fell by 6.5 million tonnes of CO2 equivalent to the year in March 2025. That's a 1.4% reduction, taking us to 28% below 2005 levels, proof that we are well on track to meet and beat our 43% emissions reduction target by 2030. To put that in perspective, that is a reduction of 6.5 million tonnes. Is like taking 1.4 million cars off the road or eliminating the annual electricity use of around 1.3 million homes. I know Canberrans want to see us set a strong 2035 target, and this is something I am raising your voice for in our government. Thank you.
I call the member for Riverina.
Karen Mason, Barry Colhagen from The Rock, Mick Henderson from Maxwell. They are constituents of mine. And in the spirit of this constituency statement, they were at the Bush Summit, sponsored by the Daily Telegraph and Gina Reinhardt. Yesterday at Wagga Wagga, the Prime Minister was there, Premier of New South Wales was there, Member for New England was there, I was there. All of those movers and shakers from the Wagga Wagga district and indeed the Riverina converged on the largest inland city in New South Wales to talk about what is good or what should be good for the bush. And indeed, I thank Ben English, the editor of The Telegraph, for hosting this. The constituents I mentioned are upset about the rollout of renewables. Many of them are not against renewables. It's just the mad rush to roll them out, particularly in the Riverina electorate, which is not a renewable energy zone. Ian Jock Munro got up at 4 o'clock in the morning and drove to there from Rankin Springs with Noel Hicks, the former member for Riverina from Griffith. And they were holding up placards about land and renewables. And when it comes to land, I note that the Grain Producers Association CEO Colin Bettles has belled the cat on the sale, or indeed potential sale, which the Foreign Investment Review Board is not even examining because it's from the United States, of our farmland. And we've only got so much farmland. I can recall when we took office in 2013, the trigger for the FIRB was, wait for this, $252 million. Labor wanted to make it $1 billion. We brought it down to $15 million cumulative, but because of the tariff negotiations and the free trade arrangements with the US, companies and individuals and churches can come in from the US and buy as much farmland as they like. That is one real major issue for our farmers and for our regional people. But the biggest issue at the moment, the burning issue, literally, is the rush to renewables. Yes, Mayor Jasmine Jones stood up in the audience and took issue yesterday with the discussions that were taking place, and she said, your government is riding roughshod over regional Australians and we have had a gutful. I'm the mayor of that community, Yass Valley, and we have said no more. You need to come to our region, meet the farmers who've said enough, get yourself out to the region and see what's happening on the ground. And I do call on the member for McMahon to come to the Riverina and take a look for himself. And I call on him for two reasons, because this rush to renewables is madness. And the second reason I want the member for McMahon to come out is that I want my vote to go up.
I call the member for Gilmore.
Thank you, Speaker. Well, I'm over the moon today because people in the Shoalhaven will soon be able to walk into a brand new federally funded Medicare urgent care clinic at Nowra with no credit card required, just the Medicare card. I promised a second Medicare urgent care clinic for my electorate of Gilmore, and I'm so pleased to announce that on Tuesday tenders opened to operate the facility. People have told me they've waited up to 6 hours and more to see a doctor at the very busy Shoalhaven Hospital Emergency Department, and I know they are very excited for the Medicare Urgent Care Clinic doors to open in Nowra. The new clinic will provide fully bulk billed care for urgent but non-life-threatening conditions 7 days a week for extended hours with no appointment needed. With many retirees, young families and a population that swells during the holiday periods, a second Medicare urgent care clinic on the South Coast will take pressure off our emergency departments. It will provide treatment for a range of conditions that need urgent attention but aren't life-threatening, like cuts, sprains, viral infections and those weekend sporting injuries that can land us and our kids in the ED for hours. The new clinic will service a huge area in the north of my electorate, including Berry, Bomaderry, Shoalhaven Heads, Jervis Bay and Sussex Inlet. The Nowra Medicare Urgent Care Clinic will build on the very successful clinic at Batemans Bay that has treated more than 17,000 people since the doors opened in December 2023. I'm so thrilled that the Albanese Labor government will also be extending the opening hours of the Batemans Bay Medicare Urgent Care Clinic. Locals and visitors will be able to walk into the clinic from 6 a.m. till midnight, 7 days a week. The Batemans Bay Clinic will soon have the longest opening hours of any Medicare urgent care clinic in the country. The community response to the Batemans Bay Clinic has been nothing short of incredible, which is why we're extending the opening hours. Families with young children, injured sports people, holiday makers and many of our older residents have walked in, received care and gone home without waiting hours at the local hospital and clogging up the ED. This is all part of our plan to strengthen Medicare, along with cheaper medicines, bulk billing incentives for medical practices and increasing the number of doctors, nurses and midwives. I'm proud to be part of an Albanese Labor government that is listening to my community and ensuring locals can get the urgent care they need.
I call the member for Lindsay.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Speaker. It's always a pleasure to spend time in Llandialo in my community. People there have really hard-working values, and ETA Group, it's a small business there, is a perfect example of this. Peter and Sally Ann ETA have built their family-owned company over the past 15 years into a business that's not just about trucks, machines and earth moving, it's about innovation, sustainability and the circular economy. Their focus is on not waste not, want not, finding sustainable solutions and replacement materials to drive productivity while caring for our environment. They've won awards both here at home and overseas for their sustainable practices and were 2024 Telstra Best of Business Award national winners. This is the future of Australian industry and it's right in my community in Western Sydney. What also makes ETA Group so remarkable is their commitment to people. They're an employer of choice for diversity. Around 25% of their workforce are First Nations Australians and around 35% are women, well above the industry average. And that's an extraordinary achievement in a sector still dominated by men, and it shows the strength that comes when businesses back their people and invest in their community. But despite their innovation and leadership, ETA Group, like so many other small and family businesses in Western Sydney, is under immense pressure. They told me firsthand about the challenges they face, the slowdown in housing construction, pipeline blockages and a critical shortage of skilled drivers and workers. These aren't abstract policy debates, they are real, on-the-ground issues that impact whether businesses can employ locals, grow and keep Western Sydney moving. What's Labor's response to this? A productivity roundtable in Canberra, another carefully choreographed talkfest behind closed doors. Businesses don't need more PR exercises, they need practical action that cuts red tape, delivers real skills pipeline and gets housing construction moving again. Under Labor, businesses are going insolvent at record rates, energy prices are higher, construction is slowing and Australians are paying more for almost everything from health to housing, while productivity flatlines. And these failures are hitting Western Sydney harder than most. Yet through all this, small businesses, family businesses, hard-working Australians like those in ETA Group are showing exactly what makes our community strong: resilience, innovation and determination. They are a generational business and they're working hard to get ahead, employing locals, leading the way on sustainability and diversity. Llandialo and Western Sydney are the heartland of our nation. With an international airport about to open and our region central to Australia's economic future, we need governments that back businesses like Ether Group and not hold them back.
I call the Minister for Social Services.
Thank you so much, Deputy Speaker. A fortnight ago, I had the pleasure of visiting Kabul Social in the heart of my electorate of Sydney, a unique restaurant designed to inspire, uplift and support Afghan women who have fled the Taliban. It provides them with training and employment in an industry where they might otherwise struggle to enter because quite often, coming from Afghanistan, they haven't been in the paid workforce before coming to Australia. And it provides them with the training and the information they need to make a successful career here in Australia. Kabul Social is a terrific restaurant because the food's great, but it's also providing support and training to a group of women who are then entering into the workforce and building their economic independence right here in Sydney. Over a plate of dumplings cooked by Kabul Social's head chef Roya, we talked about how her work at this social enterprise has helped her achieve agency and autonomy in her life. She told me, "I can look after my family and I work outside and I'm independent. You know, I feel independent. It's so good for everyone. I feel so good and I want a big restaurant." She's planning her own business. When Roya was living in Afghanistan, she wanted to study law, but she was stopped from studying by the Taliban. She's now earning a living and she's seeing her son and daughter grow up able to study. Daughter and son are both at university pursuing their own studies. And the fact that she's bringing home an income and able to support herself and them is a real source of pride for Roya. That's true of all the women who are working at the restaurant. Kabul Social is one of 3 restaurants run by Plate It Forward. Plate It Forward is run by Sean Christie David, who is just an amazing social entrepreneur. Plate It Forward runs Kabul Social, Kolkata Social and Kiev Social, all in my electorate, and all of them providing the same sort of training opportunities for refugees and asylum seekers who've come from around the world. Plate It Forward also reinvests its profits in training more people, employing vulnerable migrants, fostering long-term economic and social resilience in these groups. And for every meal that's sold at these restaurants, 2 are donated, 1 in Sydney and, in the case of Kabul Social, 1 in Afghanistan. The Albanese government has announced a $2.3 million investment for Plate It Forward and 21 other social enterprises. They're social enterprises around Australia working with people who'd otherwise be locked out of the labour market to provide training and employment opportunities and start them on their journey to independence. It's just one part of our $230 million targeting entrenched disadvantage package, and it's wonderful to see how these operations are delivering on the ground. I also want to thank David Hedrington from Impact Investing.
The Minister's
Australia
time has expired. I call the member for Flinders.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker, and I congratulate you on your elevation to the Speaker's panel. Crime has been rising fast on the Mornington Peninsula over the last year. Data from the Crime Statistics Agency for the year ending March 2025 shows total offences are up by 22%, theft from motor vehicles is up by 51%, and breaches of family violence orders are up by 42%. Behind every number is a real person, many of whom attended the Community Safety Roundtable I held in Somerville with the member for Latrobe earlier this year. Much of the blame lies at the feet of the state Labor government's weak bail laws. After months of pressure from the state opposition, including my local Liberal colleagues Mornington MP Chris Cruther and Nepean MP Sam Groth, the Labor government has finally caved to community calls to fix our broken bail laws. But Labor's so-called reforms still miss the mark. Under the Allan Labor government, significant crimes like burglary and robbery are not even classified as serious offences under the Bail Act, meaning repeat offenders face the lowest level test when applying for bail. The state Labor government's misguided decision to lift the age of criminal responsibility to 12 after backing down from 14 has created real problems on the peninsula. Just last week, a man was charged after allegedly recruiting children to commit crimes across the peninsula region. He now faces multiple charges, including the recruiting of a child for criminal activity, supplying drugs to a child, burglary, theft and more. And this is exactly what happens when well-intentioned changes create perverse incentives. Criminals simply use underage children to do their dirty work, knowing those kids won't face consequences. During the last parliamentary break, I attended a neighbourhood policing forum at Hastings Bowling Club, where the room was full of locals deeply concerned about youth crime and aggravated home burglaries. Police briefed us on the work being done to target known youth offenders, an issue felt particularly sharply in our community. Crime looks different on the peninsula, and so does our response. Anyone on our community Facebook groups knows how often well-meaning locals share evidence of alleged vandalism and attempted crimes in the hope to find out who was involved. Today, home and shop CCTV has become a vital tool for both prevention and solving of criminal cases. At the 2025 election, the Coalition pledged $500,000 to deliver a youth crime diversion program across the Mornington Peninsula. The funding would go to community-run programs that aim to strengthen youth engagement, encourage school attendance, expand employment pathways and foster community cohesion. Unfortunately, it was a commitment that went unmatched by Labor. Once again, it is only the Coalition who will take crime seriously on the Mornington Peninsula. But I thank the Victorian Police for meeting regularly with me and our state MPs, and most importantly with the community face-to-face. Before I finish, I want especially to thank our Mornington Peninsula Local Area Commander, Inspector Terry Reynolds, for his years of service and wish him well in his next role.
I call the Minister for Aged Care and Seniors.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Over the weekend, I had the privilege of joining the volunteers and the supporters at the Melton Fire Brigade to celebrate 90 years of volunteer service to the community of Melton and surrounds. Since 1935, this dedicated volunteer service has worked day and night to keep our community safe in some of the toughest conditions that you could imagine. From grass fires in Rockbank to bushfires in the region, the Melton Fire Brigade always steps up without hesitation. My deepest congratulations to Stephen Hurt, John Dottermide, Barry Mattinson and Alan Squires for their dedication and their service to our community over such a long period. Special thanks to Captain Anthony Rhodes and Lieutenant Bailey Rhodes for organising this special event and their leadership of the Melton Fire Brigade over many years. Deputy Speaker, last week I saw first-hand proof of what we can achieve when federal, state and local governments work together to deliver better services for our community. Last Thursday, I got the chance to visit the site of the new Cobblebank Community Services Hub, where construction is well underway on a project that will transform local services in Melton. Thanks to a $15 million investment by the Albanese Labor government, as well as funding from the City of Melton and the Victorian government, this hub will be a one-stop shop for community services in Hawke. This brand new 5-storey facility will host a range of education, employment, family violence prevention, health, rehabilitation and refugee services for the Melton community and the broader communities surrounding. I also had the pleasure of officially opening the newly upgraded Navan Park in Harkness last week, alongside my state colleague Steve McGee and many representatives from Melbourne City Council, including the Mayor, Steve Abushi. Once again, this project was a product of local, state and federal governments coming together to deliver better facilities for local families in our community. In a fast-growing community, these investments ensure that public spaces are modern, accessible and fit for purpose. Upgrades to local parks are about more than infrastructure. They're about community and well-being, and I look forward to seeing Navan Park serve our community for many generations to come. Deputy Speaker, I was honoured to attend the Vietnam Veterans Remembrance Day memorial service at the memorial in Melton last week. Together with veterans, their families and the local community, we gathered to pay our respects to all those who served in the Vietnam War. We acknowledged their courage, their sacrifice and their resilience. Thank you to the Melton sub-branch of the Vietnam Veterans Association for their hard work to organise this important service, including Wayne Gillies and Jim Fitzgerald. And I also acknowledge fantastic leaders of our veteran community locally, Reg Cook and Russell Pettis, amongst others.
And I call the member for Wide Bay.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. The Gympie Music Muster is renowned as Australia's best family-friendly music and camping experience, where more than 100 artists perform in 6 venues over 4 days. Staged in the beautiful surrounds of the Ammermoor State Forest, the exciting mix of countries, blues, folk, rock music, bush ballads and free workshops conducted by some of the music industry's most celebrated artists are a big draw card, attracting about 50,000 people from all over Australia to the Gympie area every August. The muster kicks off today, and an army of volunteers from local schools, sporting groups, clubs and community organisations have been working hard and setting up the site before the gates open to the public. The muster is much more than a music festival. Since its inception in 1982, more than 2,500 artists have performed at the event that has raised more than $20 million, which has been donated to local schools, clubs, sporting groups and community organisations whose volunteers help out every year setting up and managing the muster. The muster's broad appeal and large attendance provides a significant boost to the Wide Bay local economy, with many nearby businesses owners benefiting from the influx of thousands of visitors. The former coalition government recognised the importance of the Gympie Music Muster, and I was pleased to have been able to help this iconic event and obtain a $1 million grant to help the muster provide world-class entertainment while supporting local jobs and tourism and hospitality. The federal government also recently has recognised the importance of the music muster and provided $60,000 from the Revive Live program in 2024, and the Queensland LNP government has also pledged their support to help the music muster to continue to grow. The event will receive $100,000 each year over the next 4 years from the Crisafulli government's Organisations Fund 26 to 29 to generate employment for artists and arts workers in Queensland. The Gympie Music Muster is a great example of what a regional community can achieve when it works collectively towards a common goal that provides live entertainment, stimulates economic development and provides a fun family atmosphere showcasing local, national and international talent. Events like the muster require massive amounts of planning and manpower, and I thank Gympie Apex and all the volunteers for the hard work they put into making the event such a huge success. See you at the muster this weekend.
I call the member for Robinson.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. And recently I had the pleasure of welcoming the new Special Envoy for Men's Health and Member for Hunter, Dan Repicoli, to the Central Coast to discuss men's health in the region. Dan and I visited the Black Wolf Collective, an awesome local business offering barber, tattoo, piercing and tattoo removal services in Erina. The Black Wolf Collective has partnered with two amazing organisations, the Black Dog Institute and Rise Up, to help bring awareness to men's health and to support other services. The Black Dog Institute is a proudly independent, non-for-profit, globally renowned mental health research institute connected to the University of New South Wales in Sydney. It is the only medical research institute in Australia that investigates mental health across the lifespan, from childhood through to adulthood. The Black Dog Institute believe in creating hope for those experiencing mental illness by improving mental health outcomes for all Australians. And Rise Up is a community-driven organisation of passionate men and women dedicated to supporting the many families affected by family and domestic violence. The Black Wolf Collective also helps raise funds for both organisations through its businesses. And by having deep and meaningful conversations with its clients, the business promotes a welcoming and safe space. Clients are supported through their visit and provided the opportunity to donate any sum, great or small, to either organisation. To date, the business has raised over $5,000 and have said they will continue to support both the Black Dog Institute and Rise Up into the future. Owner of the Black Wolf Collective, Alex Malloy, says that they have seen firsthand how mental health affects people of all ages, including teenagers. And that's why part of their mission is to break the stigma early and starting in high school. Through their space, their podcast and their fundraising for the Black Dog Institute, and by starting conversations. The Black Wolf Collective is showing that it's okay to speak up no matter what your age. The Black Wolf Collective wanted to make giving back feel easy and accessible to everyone that walks through the door. Whether it's $1 or more, every donation counts, and its clients get the choice to support either Black Dog Institute for mental health or Rise Up to help those affected by domestic violence. Both causes are close to their hearts, and it means a lot to the staff at the Black Wolf Collective to offer their community a way of making a real difference. I would like to take this opportunity, Deputy Speaker, to formally commend the Black Wolf Collective, owner Alex Malloy, its staff, including Jackson Quinnell and Norma Bell, on their support for these two organisations. Thank you for also creating a positive space in your business to share and speak up. My many thanks go to my good friend, the Special Envoy for Men's Health, Daniel Repicoli, for making every effort to visit Robertson, to visit the Central Coast, and supporting businesses that are supporting men's health. Thank you, Deputy Speaker.
I call the member for Barker.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Speaker. Well, Mr Deputy Speaker, I rise this morning to talk about an event that I'll be hosting in coming weeks. On Wednesday the 10th of September from 11:30 a.m, I'll be hosting my annual Big Aussie Barbie to raise funds for the prostate cancer research and, more importantly, to raise awareness of the disease and specifically the need for blokes to get tested. This is the 10th year that I've hosted that event. I do it in partnership with the Limestone Coast Prostate Cancer Support Group, and we've raised over $10,000. But much more importantly than that, on every single one of those mornings, we've had one or more people who have recently been diagnosed with the disease come along and connect with a local support group. These are people that have heard for the first time in their lives that they've got the big C, and they're incredibly scared. I've seen them come to those breakfasts and leave much calmer, much more settled about what was about to happen in their cancer journey. I've got to give a great shout-out to Richard Harry. He's a constituent of mine. He's a great bloke, and he's someone I connected with through this process. But my journey on this issue began in 2014. I attended a barbecue here that was hosted by the Prostate Cancer Foundation. It was there that I heard for the first time the startling facts about the diagnosis and the death rate, and it was plain to me that there was much more that needed to be done. It was equally plain to me that in that forum, the Prostate Cancer Foundation was preaching to the converted. We needed to get that message out, and that's why, Mr Deputy Speaker, I began hosting, as I do every year, the Big Aussie Barbie at the front of my office in Mount Gambier. Now, Mr Deputy Speaker, I know you know, and I'm sure the member for New England, who has his own lived experience with this, understands that 1 in 7 men will be diagnosed with prostate cancer. 54 men will be diagnosed today, 54 men tomorrow, and 54 men every single day thereafter. 3,500 men die from the disease each year. That's 9 families every day who lose a loved one to this dreadful disease. The Big Aussie Barbie aims to raise awareness and understanding of the disease and raise funds to support awareness programs. These are deaths that we can prevent with early intervention. Mr Deputy Speaker, it's only thanks to the generosity of the community of the Mount Gambier and Limestone Coast and the volunteer effort of the local prostate cancer group that I can bring this to reality. I want to extend my thanks to them, and I want to make a call out. If you're in and around Mount Gambier on the 10th of September at 11:30, come down and have a snag. If you can't, jump on my Facebook page and chuck us a donation.
And I call the member for Macarthur.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Speaker. They say that Rome wasn't built in a day, but it would have been completed much sooner if they'd had a rail line to connect their workers to the site. That's why I'm very passionate about the need for rail connectivity from south-west Sydney to the new Western Sydney Airport and the surrounding Aerotropolis. Why I'm absolutely appalled at the New South Wales Premier's decision not to provide such vital transport infrastructure to my electorate from Western Sydney Airport. Recently, Premier Minns stated that the New South Wales Government does not intend to build rail services to connect Western Sydney Airport with south-west Sydney. It's absolute tragedy. This would mean no new stations in Camden or Narellan or Bringelly or Oran Park or Leppington or Catherine Fields, which would connect the airport with existing stations such as Macarthur, Campbelltown or Leppington. It's an appalling response from the New South Wales Government, especially considering that our federal government understands the importance of this project for the region and is pushing ahead with our $1 billion land acquisition project to secure rail corridors in south-west Sydney to connect the region with Western Sydney Airport. This was announced by the Prime Minister in March, and we are incredibly passionate about making sure this continues. It was very well received by local residents, businesses and local councils, and it is a pragmatic, common-sense policy. And I'm speaking out about this because I think the New South Wales Government's response is terrible. On the other hand, when the New South Wales Premier made his decision not to build or manage rail services from Western Sydney Airport to our region, it was met with shock and incredible frustration by residents, businesses and local councils. Our federal government's land acquisition project helps ease the cost on the New South Wales Government, who would maintain rail services via New South Wales Transport. It's quite literally the perfect arrangement, yet the New South Wales Government is walking away. The North West Metro Rail project is brilliant. It's fantastic. I've ridden it on myself, and it really does connect the northwest part of Sydney to the centre of Sydney and all the surrounding services. From southwest Sydney, it is very frustrating and disappointing and indeed inequitable that we don't get the same treatment, especially when southwest Sydney is growing by tens of thousands of people every few months, making it larger than Tasmania and Canberra in population. And we are not predicted to slow down. It's continuing all the time. Having a link from southwest Sydney to Western Sydney Airport is absolutely critical, and we can't turn our backs on it. It's critical for our economy. It's critical to reduce road congestion and pollution, and vital to secure the viability of the new airport and the Aerotropolis. It must be done. Our roads in southwest Sydney are already highly congested, and a bus service to the airport is not the solution. This is not acceptable.
Expired, and I call the member for New England.
Well, thank you very much, Mr Deputy Speaker. It has been reported in 2GB and also in the Sydney Morning Herald about a substantial amount of money that was put on the table to try and get me to shut up about my fight against net zero. I think it's important for the record to give my best recollection of exactly how this happened. It would have been about 2 years ago. It was in my office. It was a very respected lobbyist. There were other people present. It was not an offer that was made to me personally. It was relaying an offer that that lobbyist was going to be paid if they could get me to shut up. I thought it was in the vicinity of $600,000. Apparently, I was talking to another person who was at that meeting and said it was more like $400,000. Obviously, the person knew that I was never going to be a part of that. And to be quite frank, I don't think they were either. They were just saying how amazing it was that this is the sort of money that is flushing around in the system for people to change their views. I think it's really important that people understand that with capacity investment schemes, with these sort of issues, there are billions and billions of dollars that are at play here. And because this money is at play, it is not a perfectly transparent and honest field. I call on the government to give us more transparency in who exactly is getting these capacity investment schemes, which I think we can sort of get close to, how much in toto is now in play by reason of these capacity investment schemes, with redacting the actual clients but giving us groups of how much returns these groups are getting. Because this is not the pure and the undefiled in this process. This has huge question marks over it. I might say that if my family was going to get money out of this swindle industry, we would have just accepted when they offered to put wind towers on our place, which we rejected. We rejected them on the premise that our job is to produce food and fibre, not to rip off poor people, where ultimately this is where this lands. During the last snow event in where we were in Woolbrook, we have people in my district who were sleeping with their pets to keep warm. One Aboriginal lady, not because of this, she died when a car got bogged and she couldn't get out. And when you live in that environment, you become absolutely 100% driven that the loss of their standard of living will be stopped, and this rubbish that we are doing to hurt them must stop with it.
I thank the member and I give the call to the Minister for Employment and Workplace Relations.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Well, the South Australian coastline is one of the, if not the most beautiful coastlines in the world. And as part of that, in my electorate of Kingston, I have kilometres of beautiful beach, right through from Hallett Cove to Port Noarlunga, all the way down to Maslin's Beach. It's a beautiful piece of coastline, and I was really, really pleased to gather with many residents to open the new Witten Bluff walking trail on the weekend. This was a long-term campaign over decades to connect the townships of Christie's Beach and Port Noarlunga with a beautiful walkway. So we, along with the local members, council and residents and businesses, campaigned, and it was great to be at the opening of this on Saturday. Now, of course, the beautiful South Australian coastline is experiencing challenges at the moment. With the harmful algae bloom that has outbroken across the shoreline, there is some significant impact. And I did want to acknowledge the distress for many people in my local area to see fish and other marine life washed up on the beaches. It's a place that we all like to go and all like to enjoy. And it is important that we all work together to tackle what we can. Of course, nothing can be done to stop this bloom, but we can respond to it. And that's exactly what's been done between a partnership between the state government and the federal government, with investment in science, in research, importantly in monitoring, but also in support for businesses that have been affected. Businesses have been affected not just by the outbreak of the algal bloom, but indeed the perception that it's not safe to swim in South Australian beaches. So there is funding now available for businesses that are affected, tourism businesses, as well as other businesses. But look, I have a really important message. If you've been thinking about coming to enjoy the coast in South Australia is calling. It is calling, come down and enjoy it. There are some wonderful businesses, wonderful experiences, and please don't be deterred as we go towards this third term school holidays. Don't be deterred to get out there. Now, in addition, I am very pleased the federal government continues to invest in our local area. Of course, we have money being built, the new Noarlunga Aquatic Centre. Really important thing. We were able to stop that pool from being closed through this investment, and I will continue fighting for the beautiful environment we have, but also the wonderful place it is in the southern suburbs of Adelaide.
I thank the Minister and I call the member for Bowman.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. This month I had the privilege of presenting the 2025 Underhill Grants on behalf of the Redlands Foundation, alongside my state colleague Amanda Stoker MP. The event was held at the Redlands Sporting Club and brought together a wide cross-section of our local community, from sporting clubs to service organisations, from arts groups to volunteer associations. The Redlands Foundation is my city's most important philanthropic institution. Over the past decade, it has distributed more than $2.2 million in grants and support to local organisations. That support has included more than $400,000 to help those experiencing domestic violence, $100,000 for programs tackling homelessness, and countless other investments in youth mentoring, health and community development. These are tangible, life-changing outcomes that flow directly back into the Redlands. The Jeffrey and Geraldine Underhill Grants Program is named in honour of two remarkable local philanthropists whose generosity has created an enduring legacy. Thanks to their foresight, we now have annual disbursements that give grassroots organisations the resources to keep doing what they do best, helping, supporting and building our community from the ground up. This year's recipients once again demonstrate the strength and diversity of community life in the Redlands. Grants were awarded to the Bay Island Golf Club, the Caged Youth Foundation, the Capalaba Junior Rugby League Football Club, and it was a pleasure earlier to see the students of the Victoria Point State School who are here in Canberra this week, one of them proudly wearing a Warriors jersey. Coastal Rowing and Touring Australia, the Donald Simpson Community Centre, the Eczema Association of Australia, Lamb Island Men's Shed, the Marta Foundation, My Horizon, the North Stradbroke Island Rugby League Club, Go the Sharks, the Point Lookout Surf Lifesaving Club, the Raiders Netball Club, the Redland City Raw Basketball, Redland Bay Tennis Club, Redland Bay Women's Shed, Redland City Bands, Redland Emergency Services Volunteers Association, Redlands Cricket, and I'm off to the Redlands Cricket this Saturday to see Marnus Labuschagne play in the T20 Batch competition, the local Brisbane one, Redlands Rugby Union, Go the Mudcrabs, Redlands Touch Association, the Shoreline Association for Neighbourhood Development, Traction for Young People, and the Urara Art Society. Each of these groups represent a thread in the fabric of the Redlands, whether it's the surf lifesavers keeping our beaches safe, the musicians enriching our cultural life, the youth organisations mentoring young people, or the sporting clubs that bring families together on weekends. Every grant recipient contributes something unique and valuable to our Redlands community. I want to thank the Redlands Foundation for the work they've been doing and for all these organisations for the work they've been doing in our community during a very difficult and wet year for the Redlands.
I thank the member and I give the call to the member for Tagning.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. How often this week have we done something enjoyable or went to bed and wake up at a regular time or had a meaningful conversation? For many of us, not often enough. One Tangni local and his team are trying to change this. Early this year, Professor Nick Titov was appointed a member of the Order of Australia for his significant service to digital mental health and wellness. Nick founded MySport, which supports Australian adults with free, confidential psychological assessments and treatments and access to qualified therapists. MySports has worked with more than 250,000 Australians. Nick has also started the Big Five, 5 types of actions that strongly link to mental health. Most people don't know what they can do each day to look after their mental health, or how often they should do these things. Nick's research shows that doing these 5 activities at least 3 or 4 times a week make you mentally healthier and more resilient. And his research also showed that if people stop doing these activities, their mental health worsen. When Nick told me about the Big Five, I did a self-check, and I wasn't doing all this health activity often enough. Here are the Big Five meaningful activities to give us a sense of accomplishment, satisfaction, or joy. This can be as simple as listening to your favorite song. Healthy thinking is about having realistic thought about ourselves, the world, and the future. Having goals and plans help us to stay focused and motivated. Healthy routine like our sleep routine, eating well, and stay active are critical. And social connection. Being in touch regularly with people who we love and respect gives us a little sense of belongings. Over the last 2 weeks, I have put this Big Five into practice, and I strongly recommend everyone to give it a go. Why? Why I like the Big Five? Because it is very practical and it is free. There's a journal to help us to reflect and daily text messages to prompt us. And Nick said, do more and you feel better. Do less, the harder it gets. Thank you, Nick.
I thank the member and I give the call to the Attorney-General.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Education is the great equaliser. It transforms lives and underpins the jobs, productivity and prosperity that will shape Australia's future. That's why I'm proud to share that construction is well and truly underway on the brand new and much needed public school and preschool in the Gables. This project will deliver a modern primary school for 1,000 students and a fee-free preschool for local families. This is a vital investment in the future of our children in rapidly growing North West Sydney. Alongside this, designs have been revealed for a new primary school, high school and preschool in Box Hill. Temporary schools have already been delivered in record time, ensuring local students have access to quality education while these permanent facilities are being built. This is how Labor governments deliver, by listening to communities, recognising their needs and acting to provide real results. These projects are being delivered thanks to the Minns New South Wales Labor government, supported by a strong local Labor team, and they build on the Albanese government's record commitment to ensure every public school in New South Wales is on a path to full and fair funding. For far too long, families in the Gables and Box Hill have been left behind. Successive Liberal governments failed the communities across the hills, approving thousands of new homes without the proper planning for essential infrastructure. When families hand over their hard-earned savings, take out mortgages and move into a brand new suburb, they do so with the legitimate expectation that the basics will be there: electricity and water, roads and transport, connectivity and schools and hospitals. These are not luxuries, they're essentials. And yet thousands of families have moved in here with promises of new schools that simply never eventuated. But since the last election, I've had the privilege of representing this area for the first time. And in this time, I've spoken with parents right across the Gables and Box Hill who've told me of their frustration at having to drive long distances in peak hour just to get their children to class, or the stress of trying to get their kids into nearby schools that are already bursting at the seams. I'm pleased to say that this is set to end. Together, our strong local Labor team is ensuring families in Greenway and right across North West Sydney get the world-class education infrastructure they need and deserve. And I'll keep fighting to make sure this growing community is never taken for granted again. Because when we invest in schools, we're not just building classrooms, we're building futures.
I thank the Attorney-General, and in accordance with Standing Order 193, the time for members' constituency statements has now concluded, and I call the clerk.
Government business statements. Number 1, National Skills Week. Further statements.
Are there any statements? And I call the member for Bendigo.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. I'm pleased to rise to say a few words in relation to National Skills Week. My electorate of Bendigo is one of great diversity. We are home to Bendigo TAFE, we are home to thriving businesses, we are home to a university. We are growing when it comes to the need for local skills. Our unemployment rate is officially under 3%. On a weekly basis, I will meet people who tell me, employers and businesses, saying they struggle to attract people with the skills that their businesses need. That is where our government is making a difference. We are turning things around through our investment in TAFE, our investment in businesses, our investment in giving people the opportunity, young people the opportunity to choose a career path that suits them and of their choice, and people who wish to career change, many of whom didn't take up their passion when they left school because of poor advice or because there simply wasn't the opportunity to do so. At a federal level, we are investing in making more pathways open for Australians to complete training and enter the workforce, or re-enter the workforce in many cases. We are delivering $10,000 to apprentices to become carpenters, plumbers and sparkies that we need for construction. We are also making free TAFE permanent and creating unpaid PAC placements for our nurses, as well as many other professions that are associated with higher education. This year's National Skills Week's theme is exploring all options, encouraging all Australians to think about a trade, to think about a new career, or something that is more of the vocational space. It's important for us to acknowledge in this place
that somewhere in the 80s and 90s, we discouraged young people for thinking about a trade. Far too many of my schoolmates encouraged to go to university because they were told that they were bright, too bright for a trade. We now know that this thinking, this rhetoric was wrong. Not only was it wrong to the young apprentices who went into the skills and trades, it was also wrong for those young people whose love of using their hands was denied and they went into careers or into university, quite often to drop out because it wasn't their thing. Whilst our thinking has changed in schools and our thinking has changed in communities, there's still a lot of work to do to encourage young people to consider a trade. In regional areas like my area, for many going into trades, it's because they have a significant male role model in their life that's already in the trade. Far too often we hear people going into trades because it's their uncle or their father's profession. This is great and we do encourage this. But what about the young woman or the young male who doesn't have that significant male figure in their life? How do we encourage them to think about the trades? We are starting to see a shift locally in that thinking. And I want to acknowledge Bendigo TAFE and their free TAFE course that they are running in Castlemaine. It is for women and gender diverse people. It is the only one of its kind and it is full. It is encouraging women of all ages to consider a career in construction. It is focused on the basic skills, Cert 2, but they do have women in their course that are thinking about taking that next step into an apprenticeship. One particular woman that I know dropped out of school because there wasn't a pathway for her to pursue a construction trade apprenticeship. We shouldn't have this in 2025. I'm so relieved that she could find a pathway through Bendigo TAFE and through this free TAFE course that's being run from Castlemaine. This kind of innovation, this kind of opportunity we want to offer to all women who might wish to career change or think about a career in the trades. Having that safe space where their teacher is a woman, their classmates are women, and they're able to ask questions without feeling out of place. They are learning and will contribute towards meeting the skills requirements that we have. National Skills Week is an opportunity for us to celebrate this, but it's also an opportunity to celebrate the success stories of VET and vocational education. It's an opportunity also for us to recognise that 9 out of 10 new jobs in the next decade will require a post-secondary school qualification, with 4 of those requiring a VET qualification. It's also an opportunity for us, for people like myself, to talk about the need to expand the VET in Schools program. In my part of the world, we have one of the original trades training centres that was built under the former Rudd Gillard government. But the equipment at Bendigo Senior Secondary, some is out of date. We've had significant advancements in technology since it was first built under the Rudd Gillard governments. It needs to be updated. There's an opportunity for us at the federal level to partner with the state governments to ensure that these trade training centres have the equipment that we need today. There's also an opportunity to expand into the health and community sectors with the VET in Schools program. What we are finding is that universities are looking to the students who have that VET qualification, that Cert 2 that they achieved at school as part of their pathway and part of their resume, as well as their ATAR score. At Bendigo, Bendigo La Trobe campus, we have the largest rural school of health in Australia for allied health. We have dentistry, we have physio, we have OT, all of the allied health professions. Only a few weeks ago, I was at the opening of the new dental school, which is the largest of its kind in Australia. It was opened by our Premier Jacinta Allen. Number of the students that we met and talking to them, whilst they did achieve ATAR, what also helped them for their early acceptance was the fact that they were able to pursue some vocational education certificates and training. They could demonstrate to the university that they had the love, the skills, but also to the fundamentals, the bedside manner, the experience in a Cert 2 that they achieved through health. Students who are going for placement in the medical and biomedicines, being able to demonstrate that they could already do the basics of healthcare through the certificates that they'd received at school. There's an opportunity through VET in school to encourage young people to think about a career in university or through TAFE, which might not be a family occupation already. So let's think about how we can capture those young people who don't have that significant parent or relative in health or in trades, encouraging them to think about a career. Labor is delivering on skills. It is delivering on training. And this gives me a quick opportunity to talk about the pathways that we have established through TAFE to university. I was privileged to have the Minister for Skills, the Honourable Andrew Giles, in Bendigo to announce that nursing students would receive part of the Commonwealth placement payment. These are students studying enrolled nursing at Bendigo TAFE. Not just Bendigo TAFE, but all enrolled nursing students around the country may qualify for this payment if they're required to do compulsory prac placement. The students that we met are astonishing. All of them identified themselves as early school leavers and were now at a point in their careers where they had chosen to go into nursing, men and women, who said to us quite boldly that they would not be at TAFE if it wasn't for free TAFE. And now with this placement payment on the table, we're now able to do their placement without fear of being able to put food on the table. All these students, though, however, identified they were not going to stop at the end of their enrolled nursing course, all of them wanting to go on to become registered nurses and midwives, and were on their pathway to study at La Trobe University just up the road. It's a demonstration of how we can have that alternate pathway into university, and it's working. National Skills Week, an opportunity to celebrate the successes but encourage that next generation of tradies, that next generation of health workers to think about a skill and to think about TAFE.
I thank the member and I give the call to the member for Nichols.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. And National Skills Week is upon us, and it does give us an opportunity to talk about where we're up to with skills and training in this nation and where we need to go. And I think there needs to be some serious thinking about the tracks we're on, and I think we have the opportunity to look overseas, which I'll talk about in a minute, to see what other countries have done and how successful they've been in skills training, particularly in vocational skills training. Now, Deputy Speaker, the area I'm from is one of the great food manufacturing regions, not only in Australia but in the world, supplied by the Goulburn Murray irrigation system. Water flows out across the fertile soils of the Goulburn and Murray valleys. A great deal of produce is grown, and a lot of that produce is processed. There's a number of food manufacturing companies, from the fruit industry, the iconic SPC with its processed fruit products, and while I've got the time to talk about this, Deputy Speaker, everyone is welcome to come to my office and take the Peach Challenge. I know the member for Hunter has taken the Peach Challenge, where he correctly identified the high quality of the SPC product versus I agree with the member for Hunter, the Chinese product was significantly inferior. We have Fonterra that makes a huge amount of the mozzarella that goes across pizzas across Southeast Asia and Australia, Kagome, which manufactures tomato products, also the iconic Furphy Furphy Foundry and Furphy Steel Products that have been making tanks since the late 1800s. And the reason I mention all of these businesses is because they need the skills that will transform their businesses into the future. So, Deputy Speaker, we had a problem, and I think we still have the problem, although I see there are signs of improvement, in that businesses were saying to me, we can't find the young people who, with the skills, with the training opportunities, that are going to take our businesses forward. And then you go over to the schools and the teachers are saying, well, the kids sort of lack ambition, they don't see what opportunities there are for them, and so they're going down a path of which we don't want them to go down, which is a path that young people find if they don't have hope and they don't sense an opportunity. So in 2019, Deputy Speaker, I applied for a Churchill Fellowship to study this, and I was successful, and I thank the Churchill Trust for trusting me with that great opportunity. And I was to go to Europe to see what the Germans, the Finns, the Swedes and the British were doing about this very problem. How do we link educational institutions, whether they be primary, secondary or tertiary, with the business community? Because I think we need to do that better in Australia. Now, unfortunately, the pandemic came upon us, and I wasn't able to travel until I was in this place, 2023. But I hope to apply what I learnt to this area of skills and to my shadow assisted ministry. A couple of observations from what I saw. In Germany, the vocational education and training system, in my view, is far superior to what Australia has. The vocational schools are better than our TAFE system. They've got better facilities. I think they've got teachers who have had more industry experience, and the whole system is geared up a bit better. So my mantra in this place is I don't think we need free TAFE, I think we need better TAFE, and the industries are supporting me in that. In Germany, and Mercedes-Benz in Stuttgart as an example, they'll go out to the schools and they'll say, do you want an apprenticeship with Mercedes-Benz because we need you into the future? And they've got a very futuristic way of looking at this. They don't think about the technologies that exist now necessarily. They say, what do we need in 2030, 2040, 2050, 2060, and how can we train young people to have that mindset, knowing that things change all through those periods and you can't necessarily predict the future. But once they get an apprentice, what will happen then is that the apprentice will spend, in most cases, 3 days at Mercedes-Benz, and they'll do the practical work in a very good program. Then they'll spend 2 days in the technical school, and the technical school will be explaining and teaching the young people the theoretical aspects of the practical stuff they've been doing in the business. And that happens not just at Mercedes, all across Germany. And here's the reason that works so well. The curriculum is mainly devised by the Chamber of Commerce, not the government. So we have we like the government to control everything in Australia. The business community have taken ownership of this, and they've been allowed to take ownership of this, and they have set the curriculum for the tech schools. It's a very good system. After that, I went to Finland, and what I was most impressed in Finland and discussing things with people in Helsinki particularly was the Finnish attitude towards what they call the discipline they call skills anticipation. So the Finns set about saying, OK, what skills are we going to need in 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, and how do we develop the pipeline? The other interesting thing about Finland, Deputy Speaker, is whilst I think there's been a culture in Australia, and governments of all sides, but particularly Labor governments have said over a number of years, you've got to go to uni. We want more kids in uni. Uni's where it needs to be happening. In Finland, the mix of students where they go to after secondary school is 40% university, 40% vocational training and 20% straight into the workforce. That has been the case since 2001. It hasn't changed, and they are happy with that because that suits their skills need. and they're not having an overload of people in certain areas of professional training, they've got a much more even spread in terms of vocational education, university degrees, and some people who want to go straight into the workforce. I think we can look at these European examples and try and think about how we can do things better in Australia. I would like to talk about university because university does provide a skills and education, and I'm an example of that, Deputy Speaker, if people think I have any skills at all. But I did complete two university degrees, one in applied science and agriculture at Dookie College, which is the University of Melbourne's regional Victorian campus, and then later on I did an MBA at La Trobe, primarily at Shepparton, at the Shepparton campus of La Trobe University. And I did them when I was at Dookie. I was probably about 21, 22. I was about 42 when I did the MBA. The reason I mention this is because I think we've got to look at university in Australia as being available for people when they need it. So not everyone wants to go to university straight out of school. There are great opportunities for people to retrain later in life. And we need university opportunities where people need it. And as Shadow Assistant Minister for Regional Education, it's very important that whilst there will be opportunity for young people from regional areas to go and study in capital cities, that will continue and that's a good thing. We do need tertiary education opportunities where people are in regional settings. And a great example of this is a fantastic program that the previous coalition government put forward and implemented called the Murray-Darling Medical School. Now, what that did was moved a lot of Commonwealth-funded medical degree places, postgraduate medical degree places, out of the sandstone universities typically in Melbourne and Sydney, and moved them to regional areas. An example is the School of Rural Health, the University of Melbourne School of Rural Health in Shepparton, over the road from the hospital, training young people in the medical profession, but that training's not just a taster, which it used to be, and then people would go back to Melbourne. The whole 4-year postgraduate degree is in Shepparton. Now, the first lot of those graduates are going to come out at the end of 2025 this year, and I think what we're going to see is because they've been living in a regional area for so long, they are going to stay and practice in a regional area. So one of the great achievements of the previous coalition government, and I'd like to see that expand into the area of allied health so we can train more people in the regions. But in conclusion, Deputy Speaker, National Skills Week is an opportunity for us to see where we're up to, but I encourage the government, and I'll be doing this through a number of forums, to look overseas, look at why the Europeans have developed such a good manufacturing sector, and look at what they're doing, and the North Americans, to keep the skills pipeline coming through for the technologies of the future. Thank you very much, Deputy Speaker.
Thank you. The member for Moore.
Deputy Speaker, I rise to speak on the importance of National Skill Week, and to acknowledge the critical role skills, training and vocational education have on the lives of Australians, particularly in my electorate of Moore. This week is more than a celebration. It's a reminder of how deeply skills shape our economy, our communities and the dignity of work. As someone who began working as an electrician before studying law, I understand firsthand the value of practical, hands-on skills. When you've stood on the job site at 6 in the morning and you've wired a switchboard or guided an apprentice, you appreciate what training really means. Vocational education opens doors not just to employment, but lifelong opportunity and resilience. In Moore, from Joondalup to Duncraig, Mullaloo to Ocean Reef, our communities rely on skilled workers. These are not abstract categories. They are apprentices on the tools in construction, hospitality staff serving in our cafes and restaurants, healthcare professionals caring for patients in our hospitals, and educators shaping the young minds in our schools. Skills training underpins the prosperity of our region and provides the backbone to our local economy. National Skills Week provides a moment to reaffirm our government's commitment to supporting training pathways that deliver real jobs closer to home. When skills are taught locally, people stay locally and communities thrive. This is particularly important in electorates like mine, where residents both grow up in electorate where many residents both work and raise their families in the same suburbs they grew up in. We are fortunate to have the Joondalup Learning Precinct at the heart of Moore, bringing together Edith Cowan University, North Metropolitan TAFE and the West Australian Police Academy. This precinct is a model of how education, training and professional development can coexist in one hub. These institutions are not just neighbours, they collaborate. One example is the Joondalup Learning Precinct Mentoring Program, which connects staff across all three to share knowledge, strengthen relationships and support workplace performance. It is exactly the kind of joined-up thinking that ensures our education and training ecosystem keeps pace with the needs of students and employers. TAFE's Joondalup campuses deliver outstanding practical training. At the Kendrew Crescent campus, students enrol in cutting-edge programs, including the recently completed $21.3 million electric vehicle training centre. This facility teaches maintenance of hybrid and electric vehicles with industry-standard tools and simulators, preparing students for the clean transport future that is already arriving in our suburbs. Just minutes away at the McLarty Avenue campus, a fully functional simulation hospital gives nursing and health students real-world experience in a hospital-like setting. Students practice not just clinical skills, but teamwork, communication and crisis management, skills every patient and every family depend upon. These facilities prepare students for the evolving needs of employers and modern workplaces, ensuring graduates are job-ready from day one. At Edith Cowan University's Joondalup campus, students benefit from world-class infrastructure, a new health and wellness building, an award-winning library and hub, and even an on-campus outdoor cinema contribute to the vibrant student life. Situated in our learning precinct and accessible by public transport, ECU demonstrates that higher education is not just about lectures. It is about creating an environment where students and staff can collaborate, innovate and succeed. And then there is the WA Police Academy. Recruits here undergo a rigorous 28-week training program that blends theory with extensive practical skills, from physical preparedness to an emergency response to criminal investigations and leadership development. The Academy does not just produce police officers, it produces professionals trained to serve, protect and lead. Skills are not built by institutions alone. I wish to acknowledge small businesses across Joondalup and Wanneroo that take on apprentices and trainees, often at great cost to their bottom line. But they have an eye on the future of their industry. These businesses are classrooms in their own right. Community organisations also play a critical role. Groups like Motion by the Ocean, Dadbury, North Beach Scouts and St Vincent de Paul lead, mentor and create environments where young people can learn responsibility and resilience. Parents, carers and students themselves also embody the spirit of National Skills Week when they embrace these opportunities and commit to building a better future through training. Deputy Speaker, this year's Skills Week aligns with the Albanese Labor Government's record investment in vocational training. Through a partnership with the Cook Government in WA, we are doubling the Strategic Industries Fund, positioning Western Australia to attract advanced manufacturing, defence and clean energy projects. These industries do not arrive without workers. Every renewable energy project needs electricians and engineers. Every advanced manufacturer needs fitters, machinists and technicians. Every hospital expansion needs nurses, aged care workers and allied health professionals. Our government is making training more accessible through fee-free TAFE and vet places. Already thousands of West Australians have taken up these places, people who might otherwise have been priced out of training. By removing cost barriers, we are opening doors to those who want to skill up, change careers or return to the workforce. We're also strengthening pathways between schools and training providers, ensuring that young people can transition smoothly into apprenticeships and traineeships. A student in Year 11 today can step directly into a vet course tomorrow and into secure work the year after. These are not abstract policies. They are real investments that will help the people of Moore secure good jobs and help local businesses find the skilled workforce they need. Skills matter because they give individuals agency over their lives. A trade certificate, a nursing diploma or a hospitality qualification is not just a piece of paper. It is security, mobility and dignity. Skills matter because they strengthen families. When a parent has stable work, children benefit from security and opportunity. When a young person gains a trade, they gain independence and pride. Skills matter because they strengthen businesses. Small businesses in Moore tell me repeatedly that access to trained staff is the difference between expanding or stagnating, between taking on another apprentice or turning down contracts. And skills matter because they strengthen our economy. Australia cannot compete on low wages. We compete on quality, on safety and on the excellence of our people. That means investing in training is not an optional extra. It is a national necessity. Deputy Speaker, National Skills Week reminds us that investing in people, their training and their futures is the strongest way to strengthen our communities. From Joondalup to Mullaloo, Duncraig to Ocean Reef, the people of Moore are living proof that when skills are built locally, opportunity grows locally. I am proud to stand with my colleagues in supporting vocational education and training, and I am committed to ensuring that the people of Moore have every opportunity to build the skills they need for today's jobs and tomorrow's industry. Thank you.
Thank you. The member for Bonner.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. I rise today to mark National Skills Week, an important time to recognise the vital role that vocational education and training plays in shaping the future of our country. This year's theme, Explore Your Options, reminds us that education isn't a one-size-fits-all journey. It's about offering real pathways, multiple, flexible and rewarding options for Australians to skill or reskill, to secure good, well-paid jobs and to build careers that support their families, contribute to our economy and meet the changing needs of our society. In Bonner, I see firsthand the power of vocational education, from our local TAFE campus at Mount Gravatt, where students are studying everything from accounting to automotive to apprentices gaining hands-on experience with some of Australia's most advanced employers, including Switchbox in Bonner, who Minister Giles and myself visited back in July to chat with local electrical apprentices. Our community is full of examples of skills-based learning changing lives. Deputy Speaker, the Albanese government is proud to be putting TAFE back at the centre of Australia's vet system, right where it belongs. And we're backing that commitment with investment, with vision and with action. Across our TAFE campuses, we see a beautiful cross-section of Australia, students from every background, staff with deep industry knowledge, just like my mum, who was a proud TAFE teacher for over 20 years in early childhood education, and facilities that are improving all the time to meet both learner aspirations and industry needs, whether it's community services next to IT or auto mechanics next to agriculture. Our TAFEs reflect the full spectrum of the Australian economy and its future. And Deputy Speaker, the response to fee-free TAFE has been absolutely extraordinary. Australians are backing it in and they're showing up in record numbers. That's why the Albanese government has legislated to make fee-free TAFE permanent, delivering 100,000 places every year from 2027. In my electorate of Bonner, fee-free TAFE is already making a real difference. A student studying accounting at the Mount Gravatt campus will save almost $5,000 a year under this policy. That is real money in people's pockets and a real investment in our local workforce. Deputy Speaker, I also recently visited the Tesla workshop in Mount Gravatt with the Minister for Skills and Training, Minister Giles, where we met Zara, one of just 5 female apprentices at Tesla nationally. Zara is not only excelling in her field, she's leading. She's helping to build Australia's clean energy future, and she's also created a peer support network for other women navigating the challenges of trade apprenticeships. Zara is an absolute inspiration, and she is a great example of how our new energy apprenticeship program is supporting the next generation of skilled workers in the renewable energy sector. Programs like this are critical if we are going to meet the workforce demands of the decade ahead. Deputy Speaker, 9 out of 10 new jobs in the next 10 years will require some form of post-secondary education. Around half of those jobs will need a VET qualification, and many of those jobs will be in critical sectors: clean energy, housing construction, aged care, early childhood education and manufacturing. Deputy Speaker, the Albanese government is focused on building that pipeline of skilled workers. We've already seen encouraging growth. There are now 50,000 more apprentices in training than there were before the pandemic. Construction apprentices are up 28%. Women starting trade apprenticeships are up 32%. These are great signs, but we know there is more to do. That's why we've launched our key apprenticeship program, including the new energy stream and housing construction stream. Already, more than 12,000 apprentices have signed up for clean energy pathways, and in just 1 month, more than 1,200 new apprentices were approved under the housing construction stream, including carpenters, electricians and plumbers, workers we desperately need to help us build more homes for Australians. And we're supporting these students beyond just enrolment. Deputy Speaker, we've increased the living away from home allowance for the first time in more than 20 years. That payment hadn't been updated since 2003. Deputy Speaker, Bonner is also home to more than 59,000 VET students. Courses in engineering and health are amongst the most in demand, and it's no surprise these are sectors that are offering meaningful work, long-term careers and vital services for our communities. We're backing these students and we're backing their futures through the $30 billion National Skills Agreement that we've struck with the states and territories. This agreement is transforming our VET system, investing in high-quality, accessible training and creating TAFE centres of excellence. It also supports the delivery of foundation skills, building Australians' literacy, numeracy and digital literacy. Because we know that the road to meaningful employment starts with confidence, and sometimes that means going back to basics. Through our Skills and Education and Employment program and $77 million in new funding, we're expanding access to free English language literacy and digital skills training. Deputy Speaker, in a rapidly changing economy where AI, automation and digital tools are becoming the norm, these skills are not optional. They are foundational to future participation and prosperity. Deputy Speaker, we need to shift the national conversation around vocational education. This isn't second best to university, it's equal, and it must be seen as such if we are to meet the challenges and opportunities of the next decade. We also must acknowledge that learning doesn't stop at 18 or 21. More and more Australians are using fee-free TAFE to reskill later in life, starting new careers, new passions and new opportunities. Our government supports that. Whether it's formal training in classrooms or informal learning in the workplace, education should be lifelong and supported at every stage. Deputy Speaker, National Skills Week is a time to celebrate the value of hands-on learning and the diversity of pathways Australians can take to success. It's time to recognise the students, the teachers, the employers and the institutions like TAFE that are lifting up our communities
and driving our economy forward. And it's time to reaffirm our commitment to making vocational education more accessible, more inclusive and more respected. The Albanese government is proud to be leading that charge, and I'm proud as the member for Bonner to stand here today and say that we are backing Australians with the skills for the jobs of the future. Thank you.
Thank you. The member for Corangamite.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Happy National Skills Week. This week is about celebrating the power of skills and training to change lives, open doors and build stronger communities across our nation. The 2025 theme, Deputy Speaker, is Explore All the Options. And that's exactly what the Albanese Government and our Minister for Skills and Training are supporting. Options, opportunities and pathways for every Australian to build their future and contribute to our economy. In my electorate of Corangamite in Victoria, I have seen firsthand the difference TAFE and apprenticeships make. They give people a start, help workers retrain and upskill and ensure local businesses have the skilled workers we need to thrive. And at Gordon TAFE in my region, many lives are transformed thanks to the dedication of the staff and teachers who make it such a special place to learn and grow. I recently visited the Gordon with our Minister, Minister Giles. We met with nursing students who are preparing to enter vital roles in aged care, showing the important pathways that vocational educational providers for both young people and mature aged learners have. Deputy Speaker, there are so many fantastic local stories at the Gordon. Will from Torquay is one of them. While still at school, Will began a school-based apprenticeship. He continued his studies, earned an income and learned his trade alongside his dad. Today, Will is in his second year of his apprenticeship and setting himself up for a strong future in the construction industry. Will's story shows what is possible when learning is accessible, affordable and respected. Deputy Speaker, that is why the Albanese government is backing in our vet sector. It gives people opportunity, skills and a profession and contributes to a better future for our region and the nation. It's why we've made free TAFE permanent, guaranteeing at least 100,000 fee-free places every year from 2027, because cost should not be a barrier to training. Through free TAFE, we are extending opportunities by removing the barriers of cost, gender, location or background that too often keep people out. With $1.5 billion committed to free TAFE and vet places, we are ensuring vocational education is available to Australians at every stage of life. Since free TAFE was introduced, more than 650,000 Australians have enrolled and 170 courses have already been completed. The impact is enormous, with over 84,000 vet participants aged 45 to 54. Interesting that those people, vet participants, are stepping in at an older age, along with 40,000 who are aged over 55. And we also know that women comprise 62% of free TAFE enrolments. Deputy Speaker, we are also backing in apprentices. We're making available free pre-apprenticeship courses through free TAFE because evidence shows that it boosts completion rates. Our key apprenticeship program in energy and housing has been designed with course completions in mind too. A $10,000 incentive paid in instalments, recognising the importance of cost of living support across the whole of an apprenticeship. In its first month alone, the housing stream of this program saw almost 1,300 apprentice sign-ups, with the top 3 occupations being carpenters, electricians and plumbers, all essential to building the homes Australia needs. Deputy Speaker, we do recognise this is a monumental task. When the Albanese government was elected in 2022, Australia faced the worst skills shortage in 50 years. So meeting this challenge must be a high priority for our Minister. We know that 9 out of 10 new jobs will require post-Year 12 training, and around half of these will come from a vocational pathway. And that's why the Albanese government is committed to transforming the VET sector, restoring it to its rightful place alongside universities as a foundation for rewarding well-paid employment. And it's why we're supporting VET. It is also about individuals. It is also about addressing skills shortages and building a strong, productive and prosperous economy. As part of our work to make this a reality, our government signed the groundbreaking National Skills Agreement with states and territories in 2023. This historic deal unlocks up to $34 billion in joint investment to strengthen and modernise vocational education and training, with TAFE at its centre. As part of this, 12 TAFE centres of excellence are being established to deliver the skills our economy urgently needs. These centres are taking shape in areas including housing and construction, clean energy, advanced manufacturing, electric vehicles and heavy industry. These centres give Australians the opportunity to gain skills in areas where they can make a real difference to our communities and our nation. Deputy Speaker, strong foundation skills, literacy, numeracy, digital capability and the ability to adapt to technologies like AI are critical to ensuring that everyone can participate fully in work, in education and the broader community. In December 2024, in partnership with states and territories, we finalised the National Foundation Skills Strategy 2025 to 2035. It sets out a vision for adult learners to access quality training that builds confidence, capability and lifelong opportunity. Deputy Speaker, in closing, my region has always been built on skills. From the workshops in Marshall and Moolap, to the care workers supporting our ageing communities, to the tradies building homes in Armstrong Creek and Mount Dunedin, these are the people who keep our region strong. These are the people who will continue to make our nation so special. National Skills Week is a reminder that learning never stops, that opportunity must always be available, and the respect for every pathway is fundamental to fairness. It is a week to celebrate the people making this possible, our apprentices, our trainees, our TAFE students and our skilled workers. They are not only building their lives, they are building and caring for our communities. Deputy Speaker, the theme of this year's Skills Week, Explore All the Options, captures the spirit of what our government is delivering. Every pathway, every course, every apprenticeship and every TAFE place is an opportunity to build a better life for individuals, for families and communities. We are committed to continuing to provide Australians with these pathways, to continue investing in our VET system, in our TAFE centres of excellence, in free TAFE and in apprentices, so that every Australian has the chance to explore all the options, reach their potential and contribute to a stronger, fairer and more prosperous nation. Deputy Speaker, skills mean fairness. Skills mean dignity. Skills bring opportunity. And that is what this week is all about. And that is what our government is delivering. And that is what I will continue to fight for on behalf of the people of my electorate of Corangamite. So congratulations to all the staff and students at Gordon TAFE. Enjoy this week and go well. Thank you.
Thank you. The member for Griffith.
Deputy Speaker, I'm very pleased today to speak during National Skills Week, an important occasion to raise the profile and status of skills and vocational learning and showcasing attractive career opportunities for all Australians. As our Minister for Skills and Training shared this week, the Albanese government is working hard to put TAFE at the centre of vocational education and training system. At TAFE campuses across the country, you see students from every walk of life learning together and sharing their experiences. You see staff who love what they do, bringing their industry know-how and real passion for students' future. And you see facilities that just keep getting better, keeping pace with the dreams of learners and the needs of local industries. I have seen this in action recently at my local TAFE Queensland at the Mount Gravatt campus. It's located in my electorate of Griffith. There, students in Brisbane's south are offered a convenient location to pursue their study goals. You can study conservation and ecosystem management, entrepreneurship and new business, horticulture, accounts administration, early childhood education and care, and so much more. Mount Gravatt is also TAFE Queensland's fashion studies hub and offers a range of applied fashion design and millinery courses and hosts an annual Brisbane Fashion Parade where students showcase their designs. Recently, I commissioned award-winning local TAFE Queensland student Ella Taylor to design and create my gown for last night's 2025 Federal Parliamentary Press Gallery's Midwinter Ball. Deputy Speaker, I am sure that you are aware that the Federal Parliamentary Press Gallery's Midwinter Ball is an annual charity gala, bringing together parliamentarians, journalists and community leaders to raise funds for important causes. Ella Taylor, a student of a Diploma of Applied Fashion Design and Merchandising at TAFE Queensland's Mount Gravatt campus in my electorate of Griffith, recently won gold at the World Skills Australia National Championships. Supported by the Australian Government, World Skills Australia is a social enterprise that passionately believes skills drive the future of young people and of Australia. World Skills Australia is part of an international world skills movement, and since 1981 they have been enabling young people to showcase their trade and skills here and overseas at competitions. I'm really proud to advise that Ella has recently been selected for the National Training Squad for World Skills Australia, and the final squad, what they call the Skilleroos, will be announced in the near future. Those selected Skilleroos will be competing in the 48th World Skills Competition, which will be held in Shanghai, China, from September 22 to September 27 next year. With a national stage like the Midwinter Ball, it was important to me to use it to highlight the incredible local talent we have in my community of Griffith. Working closely with her World Skills mentor, Carol Costa, an amazing woman, Ella brought the gown to life, blending her technical excellence and her creative flair. It started as a pencil sketch. She then fitted me, measured me, cut out the materials, sewed the gown together and did a final fitting. So much work went into this gown. And it was important to Ella that she promotes sustainability in fashion, and so she and Carol chose to use dead stock for the gown. And that means dead stock surplus material that otherwise would have been discarded. The use of this fabric in Ella's creation can be seen as part of sustainable practice because it diverts materials from landfill. Ella is not only an incredibly gifted designer, but is also an inspiring example of the pathways available through TAFE. As the local MP, I see it as part of my role to showcase and celebrate this. I also commissioned a local high school student and emerging designer from Cannon Hill Anglican College, Gabe McLaughlin, to create a bespoke clutch purse to accompany the gown. Gabe chose to hand bead a Cooktown orchid, which is Queensland's floral emblem. And I'm also proud to advise that some of Gabe's work has recently been selected to be included as a finalist in the Queer Here exhibition as part of Brisbane's Pride Festival at Griffith University, Queensland College of Art and Design in Southbank, also in my electorate. Both Ella and Gabe are rising stars in design and fashion. Deputy Speaker, having worked in the education sector for much of my career, most recently supporting First Nations young people to pursue their career ambitions through both vocational and university pathways, I am passionate about educational choice. This week, our Minister for Skills and Training outlined 3 key priorities that will be his focus for this term as the Skills and Training Minister in our Albanese Labor government. The first is equally valuing vocational education and training. The second, supporting lifelong learning, something I know everyone in this place is passionate about. And the third is strengthening the partnerships that we, the Australian Government, have already established. I passionately believe that all of these are essential in continuing to build a skills system that is responsive to the needs of the people in my community of Griffith, of Australians and of our Australian economy, and also to create a skills system that puts vocational education and training on an equal footing with university. It is very clear we need graduates from both sectors to meet the challenges we will face as Australians in the coming years. I would like to take this opportunity to thank Gabe McLaughlin and the wonderful art department at CHAC, and also to thank Ella Taylor, her World Skills mentor Carol Costa, and the fashion department at TAFE Queensland Mount Gravatt campus for all the work they put in, and I was so proud last night to be able to showcase that at the ball. Thank you very much, Deputy Speaker.
I call the member for Gilmore.
Thank you, Speaker. Well, as a former TAFE teacher, the wife of a chippy and the mum of 2 apprentice tradies, I have always been a massive advocate for vocational education and training. Public education runs through my veins, and TAFE holds a special place in my heart. That's why during National Skills Week, I am so pleased to say more than 5,000 people in my electorate of Gilmore have taken up the Albanese Labor government's free TAFE program. That's free training for the carpenters, electricians and tradies we desperately need to build new homes on the New South Wales South Coast. That's free training for the healthcare workers, social workers, aged care workers and early childhood carers, ensuring our most vulnerable can get quality care when they need it. We know that free TAFE is delivering the skills and training we need to grow the Australian economy and build a future made right here in Australia. Free TAFE is working to fill jobs in those crucial skill shortage industries, and that's backed up by the numbers. There have been more than 650,000 enrolments in the government's free TAFE program and more than 170,000 free TAFE courses completed by Australians. That's just fantastic. What a successful program that is helping grow our economy and, importantly, provide affordable education to young people and people who want to upskill or retrain in new areas. I know how gaining a TAFE qualification can change lives for the better. I've seen firsthand, both as a teacher and as a mum, how TAFE has opened doorways for young people and people of all ages in regional areas like my electorate of Gilmore on the New South Wales South Coast. Free TAFE is removing financial barriers to education and training for young people from disadvantaged backgrounds. Free TAFE is putting people in regional areas like Gilmore on a pathway to well-paid and secure employment. Free TAFE means no one is left behind. Whether our kids or grandkids want to become tradies, childcare workers, nurses, computer programmers or even cybersecurity experts, TAFE provides that opportunity. Permanent free TAFE is providing a pipeline of skilled workers that Australia needs now and into the future. To provide more housing right across Australia, to make homes more affordable to rent and buy. Free TAFE means more skilled people to build and install solar panels, to make buses and construct roads. In regional areas like Gilmore, so many kids want to finish school and gain an apprenticeship or train at their local TAFE campus. Many don't want to leave home or move to the city to find work or go to uni. They've grown up in small coastal towns and often they want to work hard and follow in the footsteps of their parents, grandparents and siblings, whether that's working as a tradie, a nurse or an early educator. As a TAFE teacher, I have taught people that had never worked outside of their home before, and it was TAFE that started them on a pathway into courses such as aged care and community services. TAFE graduates are caring for our young children and our parents and grandparents in aged care. They're doing important skilled jobs. We need them, and I thank them. Speaker, it's so fabulous that the TAFE Certificate 2 in Aero Skills is providing our young people with a pathway to an exciting career as an avionics maintainer to support defence industry jobs in the Shoalhaven. We're a proud Navy town, home to HMAS Albatross, the Fleet Air Arm and HMAS Creswell. So it's really important that we have defence-related TAFE courses on offer to give local students an entry into the industry. Defence and defence industry are our biggest employers, and this Aero Skills course provides local students with an opportunity to fill in-demand roles such as aircraft maintenance engineers and aircraft line maintenance workers. The course, introduced at Nowra TAFE last year, is giving students an insight from industry-experienced teachers to ensure aircraft fly smoothly and safely through a mixture of theory and practical units. Students are gaining practical experience and developing specialist skills to give them an advantage in the job market. This includes working on real aircraft components on a variety of aircraft and working safely and sustainably in the industry. We already have industry-leading businesses employing and training young people in the Shoalhaven, and this is another opportunity for local students to take up exciting defence-related careers without having to leave home. I regularly visit my local TAFE campuses right across the electorate to speak with students about how free TAFE is providing that bit of important financial relief for them and their families. I was thrilled to meet twins Najara and Harrison, both motor mechanic apprentices that work for Batemans Bay Automotive Repairs. The siblings are looking forward to one day taking the helm of their family business. TAFE is providing them with the variety of skills needed to do just that. And I was very impressed to meet Robert Beattie, who has supervised an incredible 45 apprentice carpenters at Beach House Stairs at Batemans Bay. During a visit to his workshop with the Minister for Skills and Training, we chatted to apprentices Nathan, Nicholas and Brendan about how TAFE is helping them build the skills needed to meet gaps in the workforce. 17-year-old Nathan comes from a family of tradies and said he's confident he will always have work. Our fee-free TAFE is helping regional kids like Nathan, Harrison and Najara on a pathway to success. Free TAFE, helping people from priority cohorts, young Australians, job seekers and First Nations Australians. And it's really great to see 6 in 10 free TAFE places have been taken up by women, and 1 in 3 places have been in regional and remote parts of Australia like Gilmore. I have been on the ground talking with employers and apprentices, and I can tell you free TAFE is working, which is why we've made it permanent. Importantly, I've also met people that have been out of the workforce for a while to care for a family member or raise their children. They have turned to TAFE to gain the skills required to re-enter the workforce. Because of this government's commitment to vocational education, TAFE is booming on the South Coast. I really want to commend our wonderful TAFE teachers, employers and, of course, students and apprentices that are embracing these opportunities. Free TAFE is an investment in our future, and it's an investment in our people, ensuring all Australians, no matter their background, have the skills and capacity to contribute to a thriving economy. During National Skills Week, I encourage young people to recognise vocational education as a wonderful pathway to a good job and exciting future.
Okay. There being no further statements, I call the clerk.
Government Business Order of the Day number 1. Resumption of debate on the proposed address in reply to the Governor-General's opening speech.
The question is that the address be agreed to. I call the member for Isaacs.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. It's a privilege to represent the people of Isaacs for a 7th term in this 48th Parliament of Australia. To the people of my electorate of Isaacs, I thank them for the trust they've placed in me. To the volunteers who supported my campaign, I express my sincere thanks. You gave your time to hand out how to vote cards, knock on doors, speak to neighbours and engage in respectful discussions about the future of our electorate and Australia. I also acknowledge the dedication and professionalism of my electorate office staff, Judd, Sally, Ellie, Lucy, Nicola, Lydia, Olivia and Alex. You embody the very best of public service and I'm grateful for your support. And I want to thank the Australian Electoral Commission. I acknowledge the excellent work of the Divisional Returning Officer for Isaacs, Mark Antoine, and his team. The expertise and patient work of the AEC are among the quiet strengths of our democracy. Because of the work of the AEC, Australians have confidence that our elections are conducted fairly and with integrity. My campaign in Isaacs had a simple vision: to hear directly from the people of our community, to understand their challenges and aspirations, and to ensure their voices shape our work. In the months leading up to the election, I visited every part of my electorate, from Dandenong to Dingley, Chelsea to Cheltenham, and from Moorabbin to Keysborough. I attended community forums, knocked on thousands of doors, joined sporting events, made hundreds of phone calls, and visited festivals, shopping strips, businesses, hospitals and aged care centres. From a 20% cut to student debt to free TAFE, from cheaper medicines to 60-day prescriptions, from building Medicare urgent care clinics to more bulk billing, from support for businesses to building more housing, from wage increases for aged care and childcare workers to secure funding for community legal centres, from reforming family law to significant changes to Australia's privacy laws. Every one of these policies will make a difference in people's lives, and every one of these policies will build a fairer Australia now and in the future. In all of the conversations I had, people said they wanted help with the cost of living, secure and decent jobs, affordable housing, accessible childcare and education, healthcare and education, and a government that listens and delivers. The Albanese Labor government's free TAFE policy develops skills and supports long-term economic growth. When more Australians get the qualifications they need, business perform better, essential services improve and the economy strengthens. The Albanese Labor government's policy to cut student debt by 20% is about giving people a fair chance to succeed. Less debt means easing financial pressure, especially for younger people. In my electorate of Isaacs, more than 20,000 people will have lower student debt. Our government's cheaper childcare policy is about supporting economic productivity and easing cost of living pressure. Like cutting student debt, it gives people a level of financial freedom to make decisions that are right for them and their families. It helps parents return to work and increases workforce participation. Our government's tax cuts build on the cost of living relief policies we've already delivered. Workers will keep more of what they earn, easing pressure on household budgets, boosting savings and strengthening financial security for workers and their families across the country. Cheaper medicines are another way we are easing cost of living pressures and ensuring more people can get the health care they need. Cheaper medicines have already saved households in my electorate more than $11 million. And with 60-day prescriptions now in place, Australians are saving even more money. The Albanese Labor government's Medicare urgent care clinics are another example of policy that's delivering results and improving the lives of millions of Australians. Around 90 Medicare urgent care clinics are now operating across the country, taking pressure off hospitals and emergency departments. They're open early and close late, 7 days a week, and provide free walk-in urgent care with no appointment needed. All patients are fully bulk billed. One of Australia's busiest Medicare urgent care clinics is in Dandenong South in my electorate. In my electorate, our policies are making a difference. I think of the young woman from Dandenong, Ardila, who told me that cutting her student debt meant she could finally save money for a car to get to work. Or the mum in Keysborough, Sarah, who, thanks to more affordable childcare, is working more, earning more and saving more. In Chelsea, pensioners Barry and Iris spoke to me about how cheaper medicines are making a real difference. They no longer have to choose between filling a prescription or paying a bill. And for them, the Albanese Labor government's introduction of 60-day prescriptions means fewer trips to the pharmacy, lower costs and real savings. Australians are seeing the Albanese Labor government's plan in action. They see it when someone they know gets one of the million new jobs created since the Albanese Labor government came to office in 2022. They see it when a friend or family member enrolls in a free TAFE course that leads to well-paid, secure, skilled work. They see it when parents can return to work because childcare is more affordable. They see it when they or someone close to them visits a Medicare urgent care clinic for the urgent care they need when they need it. And they see it at the pharmacy with cheaper medicines and 60-day prescriptions. They see it in their pay packets because the Albanese Labor government's tax cuts mean people earn more and keep more of what they earn. I'm reminded that the Liberal National Coalition opposed all of this. When Australians needed help the most, the Liberal National Coalition chose division, fear, distraction and harmful politics instead of working in this parliament to deliver meaningful support for all Australians. The Albanese Labor government knows Australians don't need more promises on housing, they need homes built. That's why we've set an ambitious target and are delivering the biggest housing investment in our nation's history. We're building more homes and backing first home buyers. Since coming into government, new housing approvals are up 30% and 1 million households across the nation have received an almost 50% increase in the Commonwealth rent assistance. 500,000 homes have been built, 28,000 social and affordable homes are underway, and our build-to-rent scheme is creating 80,000 new secure rentals nationally. The Albanese government is working closely with state and territory governments. Australians expect governments to work together, and when they do, we get better results for the people we serve. More homes, built faster in the places they're needed most. We're delivering more social and affordable homes across Australia, providing security for renters, older Australians, women escaping violence and families who need stability. For almost 10 years, the Liberal National Coalition delivered headlines, not homes. The Albanese Labor government is delivering the biggest housing investment in our nation's history. I now turn briefly to multiculturalism because it remains one of Australia's greatest strengths. Multiculturalism is part of our nation's story, reflecting the simple truth that our community is shaped by people who come from somewhere else. It's a story shared by generations of Australians and stands at the heart of Australia's identity. Everyone in this building knows someone who migrated to Australia. For many of us, it was our parents, grandparents or great-grandparents who made that journey, seeking safety, opportunity and a better future. My electorate's one of the most diverse in Australia. People from more than 150 countries have made their homes in our suburbs. Their diversity is a source of strength for our community. I saw that strength earlier this year when I attended the inaugural Ramadan night market in Dandenong, organised by Bright Community, a group of local Muslim business owners. It was an extraordinary celebration over the nights of Ramadan, drawing thousands of people from all backgrounds to share food, culture and community. Migrant-run businesses make up nearly 1/3 of small businesses in Australia, and in Isaacs they are the backbone of our shopping centres, restaurants and professional services. They create jobs, generate investment and open doors to new international markets. Many children and grandchildren of migrants are now leaders in medicine, education, law, sport and the arts. Their stories reflect the best of our nation: hard work, determination and the belief that no matter where your family came from, you can succeed in Australia. I see it every day in Springvale, Noble Park, Keysborough, Mordialloc and Dandenong. When people of all backgrounds have the opportunity to participate fully, contribute to society and feel they belong, we are a stronger and more united country. Belonging is only meaningful if people feel safe to participate, whether as voters, candidates or volunteers. A healthy democracy depends not just on the right to vote, but on the ability to participate without fear of intimidation, harassment or abuse. I acknowledge my Liberal opponent at the 2025 election, Fiona Otti. Fiona conducted herself with dignity and respect throughout the campaign. While we may differ in our policies and visions, we share a commitment to service and our community. I thank Fiona Otti for her contribution to the democratic process and for engaging in a contest of ideas, not personalities. In my electorate of Isaacs, the campaign was respectful and principled. However, I must draw attention to the deeply troubling conduct that occurred in the neighbouring electorate of Goldstein, which shared the Cheltenham pre-poll booth with Isaacs. Goldstein was one of the most closely contested electorates in the nation. Following a recount, the Liberal candidate, now the member for Goldstein, Mr Tim Wilson, was elected by a margin of just 175 votes. Yet throughout the campaign there were repeated incidents involving Mr Wilson's campaign volunteers that fell well short of the standard of behaviour Australians expect. These included verbal abuse of volunteers working for other candidates, threats of violence and even death threats against public figures. This conduct was clearly intended to intimidate. One incident reported involved a Liberal campaigner verbally abusing two young women, one just 17 years old, calling them little scum. Another involved a threat of extreme violence, including a death threat directed at the Premier of Victoria and the member for Goldstein, Ms Zoe Daniel. Mr Wilson did not condemn these incidents. He made excuses instead of accepting responsibility and taking immediate action to remove and hold those responsible accountable. He even attempted to justify one of these incidents, absurdly suggesting his campaign volunteer had low blood sugar levels. On election day, private security personnel needed to be engaged in the electorate of Goldstein to ensure the safety of volunteers and prevent vandalism by Mr Wilson's campaign team. The conduct of Mr Wilson's campaigners undermined both the fairness and the safety of the election process. I acknowledge Ms Zoe Daniel, the former member for Goldstein, for the integrity with which she conducted her campaign. She ran on ideas, on values and on service to her community. Despite this, her campaign was at times deeply personal and harrowing. A respected journalist and parliamentarian, she faced a level of hostility no candidate should ever have to endure. She was subjected to vile abuse on the street, including misogynistic slurs. She had to report incidents of stalking and harassment to the police. Her car was identified online. She feared being followed home, and in the final week of the campaign she needed the protection of the Australian Federal Police. The hostility also extended to her volunteers and staff, who were intimidated at booths and endured a barrage of personal attacks online and in person. Through it all, Ms Daniel refused to retaliate. She focused on policy and principle. Her campaign was a model of integrity, and her resilience in the face of such adversity deserves recognition and respect from all sides of politics. One reported incident also involved Mr Wilson himself. As a candidate for public office, he shouted at a member of Ms Daniel's staff as she returned to her car, "Enjoy your last week." It was a comment intended to intimidate, behaviour unbecoming of anyone seeking to serve in our national parliament. I'm sure he would not accept such treatment if it were directed at him. And the behaviour did not end with the campaign. It carried into the prolonged counting process, where Mr Wilson's campaign scrutineers were encouraged to intimidate, distract and use standover tactics against Ms Daniel's scrutineers. The behaviour of Liberal volunteers and Mr Wilson at polling booths in Goldstein, including those shared with Isaacs, shows how quickly abuse and intimidation can erode confidence in our democracy. Hostility and harassment do not just silence voters' voices in the moment. They deter people from wanting to take part at all. Democracy only works when Australians can participate without fear or intimidation. This is not about courtesy. It goes to the very integrity of our democracy here in our local communities and across the nation. What occurred in Goldstein reflects a broader challenge facing democracies in Australia and across the world. Harmful political discourse, threats of violence and death, and the harassment of candidates are pushing people away from public life. We must not allow that to take hold in Australia. The strongest safeguard against this kind of conduct is a shared commitment to democratic principles, truth, mutual respect and civic participation. When those principles are undermined, the harm extends beyond individual candidates. It erodes public confidence and weakens the foundations of our democracy. All members of this parliament, regardless of their political views, benefit from the strength of our democratic institutions and share a responsibility to uphold the standards that Australians rightly expect and to protect those institutions in return. The unfortunate behaviour of the new member for Goldstein and his team during the Goldstein campaign is particularly disappointing given Mr Wilson's service as Australia's Human Rights Commissioner from 2014 to 2016. That statutory role exists to champion respect, dignity and the protection of rights for all Australians. A genuine commitment to human rights is tested in moments of difficulty, when taking action is inconvenient, when stepping in to stop misconduct carries political risk, and when personal accountability is required. By any fair assessment, Mr Wilson did not show such a commitment during the election campaign. He had the opportunity to uphold the principles of respect, accountability and fairness that underpin our democracy, but he chose not to act. That is what leadership demands, and it is what the Australian community is entitled to expect, particularly from someone who has held the office of Human Rights Commissioner. It was also deeply troubling that in October 2024, a former Liberal MP, Jason Falinski, referred Ms Daniel to the National Anti-Corruption Commission. This was a reckless attempt to misuse the Commission for political advantage. The Commission has made it abundantly clear that the referral was groundless. To quote the Commission's statement, and I do quote, "The Commission considers that no corruption issue arises and will take no further action in relation to the referral." End quote. This episode says something deeply concerning about the Liberal Party. It shows a willingness to misuse one of the most important anti-corruption institutions in our democracy for political gain. The National Anti-Corruption Commission exists to prevent corruption in government. It is not there to be used as a tool for political advantage. Such conduct undermines trust in our institutions and has no place in Australian politics. Democracy works best when people can participate without fear or intimidation, because fear undermines the core principles that make democracy function, such as fairness, safety and equal participation. This is not simply a matter of politeness or manners, it goes to the integrity of our democratic system. As I commence my 7th term, I remain driven by the values that have guided my service: fairness, integrity and a genuine commitment to this community. Public service is not about self-interest. It is about serving the community's interest. That is what guides my work as a Member of Parliament. My vision for Isaacs and for Australia is a community that is inclusive, connected and economically secure, a place where every child can access a good education, where healthcare is available when needed and where opportunities are not limited by postcode or background. The people of Isaacs have trusted me again with the responsibility to represent them in this place, and for that I am deeply grateful. I will continue to deliver on the Albanese Labor government's commitments to defend the integrity of our democracy and uphold the standards the public rightly expects of us. I call on all members to send a clear message. Intimidation and abuse have no place in Australian politics. We must lead by example and help build a democratic culture grounded in respect, inclusion and integrity.
Thank you. The question is that the address be agreed to. I call the Minister for Skills and Training.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. On the 3rd of May, the opposition sought to harness pessimism and cynicism in a path to power without purpose. But people in the Scullin electorate saw through this, as did Australians right around our country. They recognised the leadership of our Prime Minister, his record, his character and our plans to bring out the very best for our nation and every one of its citizens. They noticed that Labor listened, and not just to the loudest voices. They noticed that we understood both the need to keep responding to urgent cost of living pressures in the short term and to offer hope for the future beyond that. They noticed that we were serious about the challenges holding back Australians doing it tough and about realising those wonderful opportunities that lie before us. They noticed that we had prepared a policy agenda anchored in this appreciation, policies fit for purpose for the needs of Australians now and as we look to the future. So as I begin my contribution by thanking the voters of the Scullin electorate for again placing their trust in me and their trust in the Albanese Labor government. It is an incredible honour to have been elected for a 5th time. And of course, more importantly than the honour, it is a responsibility and an obligation to represent, to advocate, to contribute and to deliver to the people of the Scullin electorate. This is my focus as a very proud member of our re-elected Albanese Labor government. A government whose ethos from the very start of leaving no one behind and holding no one back resonated so strongly with the people of Scullin, across its length and breadth, in all its wonderful diversity. And I recognise in saying that I now have the privilege of representing a number of communities which are new to the electorate. Parts of Campbellfield, more of Wollert and a little slice of Fawkner. So I was particularly pleased to form relationships to begin an understanding of those communities who I look forward to representing in this 48th Parliament. But of course, I'm proud to represent all of the communities across Scullin and the people who make them such wonderful places. After almost a decade of serving in this place in opposition, the opportunity to serve after the 2022 election from the government benches enabled me to advocate for and deliver on a number of local wins that I'm particularly proud of, even if in some cases, Deputy Speaker, people waited too long for those wins to be realised. I think about the $2 million in funding our government delivered for the Peter Hopper Lake in Mill Park after strong advocacy for local residents for some time, and a big shout out to everyone involved in Friends of Peter Hopper Lake for their enduring advocacy. I can see now the funding being put to work to improve the quality and the environment of the lake, with Stage 2 works now well underway and expected to be nearing completion by the end of the year. Another set of funding that's made a big difference has been the Schools Upgrade Fund, and 3 schools have benefited from funding through this program. Norris Bank Primary in Bundoora for new playground equipment, playing equipment and sales. Findon Primary School in Mill Park for much needed refurbishment of student toilets, and the images that the students sent to me of the need for this is something that really resonated with me, and I was so pleased to be able to, thanks to the great work of Minister Clare, deliver on their request. And Merryang Special Development School for upgrades to their inclusive play space at the South Morang campus. Now, the Scullin electorate is a diverse place, and across the multicultural communities there is a common desire to maintain connection to culture and to language. Our government recognises this, and to help ensure communities can continue to do this work, we've supported 9 community language schools through grants to strengthen social inclusion and that ongoing connection to language, which is so vital. Now, one of the issues that's been raised constantly with me in my time in this place has been the importance of access to healthcare. And I'm so thrilled about the Epping Urgent Care Centre and the impact it is making every single day. The clinic has now seen more than 13,000 visits since it's opened, and it's happy birthday to everyone involved at the Epping Urgent Care Clinic on Monday. Obviously I won't be there, but I'll be thinking of the incredible staff for the impact they have there in the urgent care clinic itself, and of course in the women's health specialist services that are offered there as well. I think about those families who've faced some unexpected moments and needed access to a nurse or a doctor for themselves or for their children. 37 visits a day. Doctors and nurses working hard to keep our community healthy. Now, this is not only access to local urgent care, but access to free healthcare when people needed it. Another thing that really brings me great joy is the progress towards the opening of the Epping Study Hub, providing student support and campus-style facilities, bringing university and TAFE closer to home and together, because we know that where you live can be a barrier to continue in an educational journey. That's why we've delivered these hubs, and the one that is in Epping is paired with that one in Broadmeadows, and a shout out to my good friend, the new and excellent member for Corwell, Bassam Abdo. I've really enjoyed sharing your journey through a difficult campaign in which you revealed many of your qualities and just a hint of the capacity you're going to bring to this place as a wonderful advocate for your communities and a contributor to the work of government. Now, with these hubs, we'll support local TAFE and university students to attain their qualification, but also inspire the next generation as high school students can see, feel and touch that next step in their journey. I'm also really proud to be part of a government that's delivering a $4.5 million investment to revitalise the Nicochenzo Reserve in Thomastown, going towards a new multi-purpose sports court, a scooter and BMX loop and upgrades to the existing playground. I've been speaking to local residents and also parents from Thomastown East Primary School, just over the road, who through this expressed their optimism for the suburb and what this meant. This investment means for them, their families, and a more cohesive, more active and more connected community. I'm really looking forward to seeing this come through, and of course some other really critical initiatives. Just two I want to highlight in particular: the facility upgrades at the offices of the Board of Imams Victoria in Thomastown as well, and also really important upgrades supporting the incredible work of Turbans for Australia. The work that's been led and the way in which it's been led by my friend Amar Singh is something that is truly wonderful, right around the country, but most importantly in Melbourne's northern suburbs. I want to briefly touch on some of the privileges I've had over the former Parliament, particularly the roles that I've served in thanks to the Prime Minister, firstly as Minister for Immigration. As Minister for Immigration, as Minister for Skills and Training, I've had an extraordinary opportunity to change lives and change our country. I want to briefly reflect on those. To carry out, in the first instance, our government's commitments to replace cruelty for cruelty's sake with policies that were fit for purpose and consistent with who we are as a multicultural nation that has really been built by immigration was something that's extraordinary to be able to be a part of. And in that, I want to recognise the work in the lead up to the last election of my friend Christina Keneally, the work that she did as the Shadow Minister for Home Affairs and the work that I was able to continue together with my friend Minister O'Neill. I think about in particular, with Christina in mind, the decision made within weeks of coming to government to finally enable the return of the Nadala Singham family to their home in Biloela. This was a really important moment for our country as the nation and indeed the Biloela community came together. And it's wonderful that Nades, Priya, Kopika and Thanika are continuing to build their lives and build their contribution to our country in their home with certainty. Other things that really mattered, I think, that I was able to play a small part in was ending some unfair restrictions on residency pathways for temporary skilled workers and, of course, thousands of recognised refugees, 20,000 of whom now are permanent in their connection to Australia, again, being able to make their contributions after a decade of waste of potential, of waste of their lives, of cruelty for cruelty's own sake. And to see changes to citizenship, dealing with backlogs, enabling more people to become full members of our community and fully realise their contribution. I was pleased to be able to work with unions and workers to make reforms ending the exploitation of migrant workers, benefiting all Australian workers, to be part of work led by Minister O'Neill on a migration strategy, building a migration system that is fit for our national purpose, not something that is neglected as was the case for a decade. It was a pleasure to be part of the work which led to the Multicultural Framework Review, the first look at our multicultural framework at a national level in 50 years, building on the great legacy of Al Graspy and so many others, giving voice to so many people across the length and breadth of our nation, people very new to our country, people here from generations, thinking of building that culture of respect and belonging that really makes us a great nation today, but enables us to imagine how good we can be with every single voice properly heard. And I want to extend my appreciation to the panel members there, Has Dalal, Nardal Nguyen and Christine Castley, for the extraordinary work they did in enabling so many people to be heard who would not otherwise have been heard in this place. And I'm so pleased to see the incredible work of my friend Minister Anne Ali building on this legacy in her own inimitable fashion. In my current portfolio, I continue to witness how decisions that we make in national government can change people's lives for the better and change our communities and change our country. It makes me so proud, thanks to your vote and the member for Macon's vote in particular, that free TAFE is now permanent, opening more doors for more people that would have otherwise stayed shut. Australians are now gaining skills they want for jobs we need because we value TAFE. I think about the National Skills Agreement and the partnerships that enables between this government, every state and territory, with business, with First Nations community-controlled organisations, with workers and unions, so that we can work together to achieve our national purposes, to make sure that everyone can unlock their potential, wherever they may be, whatever their circumstances, by accessing skills and training that will enable them to realise their ambitions and so that we can do a better job at connecting their ambitions to our national aspirations so people can make contributions in fulfilling their potential. Some of the announcements we made at the next election take this to the next level. I think about the advanced entry trades training commitment we made, recognising that there are thousands of Australians who have experience but not formal qualifications. And we can do better to recognise them and enable them to work to their potential. I think about the key apprenticeship program, hugely successful already in clean energy, and now in housing, already opening up more doors for more people to undertake apprenticeships, the pathway to a good job and to real contribution. I want to take this opportunity to recognise the extraordinary people who've worked within my office as a minister over the time. I think about Jessie Northfield. I could not have had a better Chief of Staff or the opportunity to work with, frankly, a better human being who was so well supported by the brilliant Alice Smith. To work with people like Laurie Ferroni, Henry Sherrill, Zoe Ranganathan, Kun Huang, Ben Wicks, Roman Ristovsky, Laura Matheson, Justine Everson, Amelia Hutchison, Madison Child, Ash Grimwood. Has been a real privilege to see so many people so dedicated to making the most of the opportunities that government presents to make a contribution. I'm also incredibly proud of the work done by the team in the Scarlett Electorate Office. I think all of us in this place know that we are nothing without the teams we work with and the extraordinary work, kindness, professionalism and dedication they show to solving problems in people's lives, often problems that seem insuperable to individuals but can be solved by the great work of our electorate office teams. I acknowledge everyone's EO staff, but particularly mine. My deepest thanks go to Sally, Khadija, Maureen, Monica, Steph, Kat, Amelia, Sam and Hamish, day in, day out, working hard to supporting community members. I think particularly of the work they did to support members of our wonderful Palestinian community at such awful times. But I also want to say this. For much of the last term, my electorate office had to be shut due to a number of security incidents. I strongly support the right to peaceful protest. It is a cornerstone of a democratic society. So too is the right of a worker to be safe at work. So too the right of a citizen to be able to engage with her or his democratically elected representative. The Scarlett Electorate Office staff were subjected to circumstances no worker should have to endure. Physical threats and a denial of access to someone's workplace. This cannot be part of our politics. It cannot. I was pleased to be here for the contribution of the member for Isaacs, which highlighted a number of other concerning incidents, which I do think collectively we need to look at as we think about a politics that is fit for the Australian people. There can be no place for violence and intimidation overshadowing the work of democratic representatives, the engagement of anyone in the political process, and of course the fundamental need of any Australian to access government services, including through their local federal parliamentarians' electorate office. The campaign in the Scarlett electorate was not particularly shadowed by some of the incidents that the member for Isaac touched upon, but still I think there are things that we should reflect on, in particular the conduct of a range of organisations at early voting centres, which I am concerned about and I hope the Joint Standing Committee of Electoral Matters will look into, so that every member of the community feels safe and welcome in casting their secret ballot. I do want to acknowledge the other candidates who contested the election and thank them for their engagement. Obviously, we all reflect different worldviews, but our ability to talk to one another, particularly on the campaign trail, is something that is precious and a critical part of our democracy. I do want to recognise the incredible work of the many volunteers who really were the Scarlett campaign, the people who walked with me as I door-knocked hundreds of houses, who made phone calls, who stood with me at train stations and really lent their understanding, their passion, their selfless commitment, asking for nothing other than to want to contribute to their vision of a fairer and better society expressed through the election of an Albanese government. Any campaign cannot be run without volunteers. I'm so proud of the volunteers I got to work with. Thank you to each and every one of you. I can't thank everyone, but there are a few I want to recognise particularly. My good friend Emmeline Gasky and all the members of the Australian Services Union. To the extraordinary Joe Petrucci, a man for all seasons and a person of so many qualities. Amar and Charman Tiwari, extraordinary people who seem to have more hours in the day than I think are possible based on my understanding of maths. Suçeddin and Perihan Unal, two absolute pillars of the Turkish community, of the northern suburbs, of the Labor Party, and two dear friends. To them and their family, I will always be more grateful than I can say. To the irrepressible Monique Lebosco, who has done incredible things and will do more incredible things. To Rami Ajalil, who's a wonderful young man of so many qualities. To Tori Edge, who showed me right around the length and breadth of Wollert and showed me her passion for the work that she's done as an early childhood educator and now does through her work at the United Workers Union. To the wonderful Nessie Sayer. And the last person I want to touch upon is Monica Janinski. Monica was an extraordinary person, and I feel so grateful to have met her and spent a lot of time with her, talking about her passion for the world, particularly for animal rights, as well as for a more just society. To spend time with her, I was excited by what was going to become. She talked about new study opportunities, including in the law. Monica is not with us, and I think of her standing here and I'm filled with an immense sadness for all those who loved her, and sadness that all of those around her were unable to see her recognise in herself what an extraordinary person she was and what an extraordinary contribution she could have made. She did make extraordinary contributions, and the person that she was and everything that she stood for is something that will live on. But Monica, I stand here thinking deeply of you, feeling so terribly sad at the extraordinary loss. The loss, of course, that most touches those dearest to you, but I hope they can feel a sense, as I talk about Monica in this place, of the impact that she will always have through her character and her contributions. So Vale, Monica. I started this contribution, Deputy Speaker, by reflecting on the politics of pessimism and cynicism. And as I stand here, I remain deeply concerned about the rise of reactionary and authoritarian forms of populism here in Australia and around the world. I think about the awful, awful circumstances in the Victorian High Country right now. 2 police officers who lost their lives, a community terrified. I think about all of the manifestations we have to think about that pose a threat to the physical safety of community members, but more broadly to how we are as a community, as part of a global community. I recognise too that in tough times it's always tempting to find easy answers to complex problems, or worse, to look to blame the other rather than to seek to come together to take responsibility. And this is about something more than the policy choices which legitimately separate us in this place. It goes to how we conduct ourselves and our political actions. I think we need to find ways to disagree better, to reflect on the fact that while there may be things that we disagree about, this is not necessarily a terrible thing. We need to find ways to ensure that every person is respected, not every idea. In this place, I will do my best to live up to that in this term of Parliament, representing the wonderful people of the Scullin electorate.
Thank you. The question is that the address be agreed to. I call the member for Macon.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker, and it's a pleasure to follow the member for Scullin, and can I say I very much appreciated some of his remarks, particularly with respect to what is happening now in the High Country that he referred to, and also his recognition of the people that support us in our offices, which I'll talk about in respect to my own office, because it is so true that none of us could do what we do were it not for the people that are in the background doing all of the day-to-day tasks that make us look so much better. But in fact, I stand in this place because a majority of voters in the Macon electorate voted for the re-election of an Albanese Labor government and for myself as the Labor candidate. To the people who voted for me, I say thank you. I've always taken everyone's vote as something that I should not take for granted, and I've always endeavoured to live up to the expectations that people have of me once they elect me, and I will continue to do that. I also stand in this place because of the Macon office team that I was referring to just a few moments ago. Anne, Frank, James, Mignon, Rob and Wazim. And there was some others that have come over the last couple of years and have assisted as well and have moved on. But all of those people respond to the daily phone calls, the emails, the personal visits of people who come to the Macon Electorate Office for assistance, and the staff there in the office do all they can to assist those people. They take the calls from the critics, from people in desperate situations, or people who have simply no one else to turn to, and they always do so with a sympathetic ear and an understanding that everyone's needs matter. As everyone elected to this place knows, organising a federal election campaign and manning the early voting and election day polling booths requires an enormous effort. I simply could not do that without the support of my family, hundreds of committed volunteers and the Labor movement more broadly. I am grateful to them all. They are the true believers of the Labor cause who selflessly and for no personal gain give so much of their time to help me and the Labor government get elected. I also acknowledge the work of the Australian Electoral Commission for the professionalism that they show in the course of the election campaign and for ensuring that all Australians can have confidence in the electoral process here in Australia. Deputy Speaker, the 2025 federal election resulted in an extraordinary outcome. A record number of 94 Labor members were elected to the House of Representatives. At 28.7% of the seats, the coalition probably received its lowest ever percentage representation in the parliament. For the first time that I can recall, and I believe it's the first time on record, the opposition leader lost his seat. Greens party representation, a party that was supposedly on the rise, was reduced from 4 seats to 1, and the Greens leader also lost his own seat. The outcome highlights, in my view, how Australians are more engaged in day-to-day politics than is often assumed, and they can see through the political spin and tactics used in election campaigns and often by the biased media outlets. On the opening day of the 48th Parliament, as is customary, the Governor-General outlined the Albanese government's agenda for this term of Parliament. It's an ambitious agenda which first and foremost delivers on Labor's 2025 election commitments. Quite rightly, delivering on election commitments should be a priority because that is what a majority of Australians voted for. However, in a parliament with such a clear majority, there should also be room for new ideas and bold reforms that will make Australia an even better country. Reforms that we know are needed, which Australians have been calling for, which other countries have often embraced and which I believe are in the public interest. I begin with Australian gas supplies. Regardless of the views about whether we should or should not use gas, it is ludicrous that the world's first or perhaps second largest gas exporter, that we don't have enough gas for ourselves, that we pay world parity prices for it, and that we receive comparatively very little tax income from gas exports. I can only imagine what people in other countries must think of us when in countries such as Qatar, Norway, Saudi Arabia and the UAE, fossil fuel exports underpin their entire economy. Even more frustrating is the inability or lack of interest by successive governments to do anything about it. Australians expect that Australia reserves enough gas to meet our needs, that Australia collects a fair level of tax from the gas producers, most of whom pay negligible tax, and that Australians pay for gas at prices which reflect the cost of production, not the global prices. On the issue of taxes, if Australia and the rest of the world continues to reduce its reliance on fossil fuels, as it should do, then Australia's ability to collect a fair level of taxes from Australia's fossil fuels, and in particular from gas exports, will not be available to us in years to come as the transition to renewable energy continues. We have a diminishing opportunity to ensure Australians fairly benefit from the nation's gas reserves. The second issue I raise is the inclusion of dental care into Medicare. This is a matter I first campaigned for in my first federal election campaign years ago. Of course, it will add an ongoing substantial cost to the federal budget, but I expect there will also be savings through better health outcomes. There is no logic as to why dental care, which is essential to good health, was left out of Medicare, and it is time that this anomaly was corrected. As an aside, if our gas suppliers paid their fair share of tax, we could afford public dental care. The third issue I refer to is the Australian banks. When I first came to this place, former Senator Doug Cameron and I met with Treasurer Wayne Swan to discuss the possibility of establishing a government or publicly owned bank. Of course, that hasn't happened. In the meantime, bank profits have soared, and I note recently that the Commonwealth Bank of Australia announced a $10 billion profit last year. Services have been slashed, cash and cheques have been phased out, and bank branches have closed. Bank regulations have failed customers. I believe the best form of regulation is a government-owned bank that operates as an honest broker in the free market. A public bank that maintains a customer service standard and that keeps others honest whilst returning a profit to the people of Australia. Banking is an essential service. This was recognised when the Commonwealth Bank of Australia was established as a public bank in 1911 by the Andrew Fisher Labor government. According to one background paper, and I haven't read all the parliamentary debates, at the time the CBA was established, the argument was that Australia needed a bank that would benefit all citizens, a bank that would bring stability to the banking system and offer an alternative to the high fees charged by the private banks. Nothing has changed, so those same arguments would be applicable today. With cash being phased out and cheques, there is no option but to manage finances today through a bank, which in turn adds to the case for a public bank. It is indeed an essential service, and people cannot do without it. The fourth issue that I will refer to is the importance of national reinvestment in Australia's rail system. Regrettably, and unlike those countries who have continued to invest in rail, over the past 50 years Australia has neglected its rail systems. In an expansive country as Australia is, I believe rail transport still makes a lot of sense. It is efficient, it is less polluting, it is reliable, it is cost-effective, and additionally it saves wear and tear on our roads and therefore saves dollars to local, state and federal governments. Importantly, it also saves country and regional towns from dying, as so many have done when they were cut from the rail networks. When regional towns decline, the effects are devastating for those left, and the downward spiral then continues. I know that rail systems primarily rest with state governments, but I believe that the federal government can show leadership in rebuilding a national rail grid. I'm often contacted by a local railway historian, John Wilson, author of several railway books, who has become a terrific and articulate public advocate for restoring our national rail networks. And John quite passionately talks about the importance of doing so. And can I say, I appreciate that in recent years there's been quite often talk about rebuilding inland rail and the like, but I've seen very little evidence that we're making very much progress in doing that. I now turn my remarks to population growth. I've previously raised my concerns about global population growth and global consumption being the underlying cause of many of the global crises that the world is now facing. Climate change, species extinction, global conflicts, refugee numbers, mass migrations, fish stock depletion and ocean pollution are all consequences of increased consumption driven by population growth and corporate greed, in turn leading to people at war over diminishing resources or leaving their homelands in search of a safer and more secure place to live. Too many of the world's people are now literally fighting for their survival in a world being rapidly depleted of resources, while our natural environment is becoming unsustainable. Global population is now 8.2 billion and expected to increase to over 10 billion, or by about 25% over the next 30 years. By the time global population begins to decline towards the end of this century, it may well be too late to repair the damage. In a recent opinion piece, science writer Julian Cribb makes an excellent case for how humans are destroying their own world. He refers to a study by the Potsdam Institute for Climate Impact Research, working collaboratively with BOKU University in Vienna, which found that 60% of the world's land area is in a precarious state and 38% already at high risk of degradation. The collapse of ecosystems has catastrophic consequences for humanity, yet by and large, much of the world continues on its current trajectory, largely oblivious of the impending disasters. The global acceptance that climate change is real and that reducing greenhouse gas emissions is essential is welcome. However, environmental degradation, in particular land clearing, continues and is contributing to climate change, and conversely, climate change then is causing more environmental losses. The Earth's planets and animals are disappearing at an alarming rate. In May this year, I received an email from Dr. John Walmsley, OAM, a mathematician and environmental scientist, who has studied trend lines from reputable sources for many, many years, which point to a collapse of nature in Australia somewhere between 2040 and 2080. Dr. Walmsley attributes the collapse to three main causes. Firstly, between a third to half of the losses to climate change. Secondly, to unsustainable agricultural practices. And the third cause being that we do not properly protect the areas that have been declared protected areas. Dr. Walmsley states, and I quote, "Things look very grim for nature," end of quote. He ends his email with a call for a royal commission to investigate nature loss and its consequences and to chart a way forward. Environmental degradation has reached a critical level both in Australia and across the world. We cannot continue to ignore the facts, ignore the advice of experts like Dr. Walmsley, and keep kicking the can down the road. Madam Deputy Speaker, in the time I have left, I'll return to one of the comments I opened up with, and that is about the statement from the Governor-General and the agenda of the Albanese Labor government. And it is indeed a very large agenda, an agenda which I'm proud to be a part of and which I hope we'll be able to deliver on. But one of the critical issues that has been debated that was debated in the 47th Parliament was the issue of what was referred to as the housing crisis across the country, and indeed across the world, and rightly so, because it is such an important issue. And I want to spend a few moments just talking about that. The Albanese Labor government from day one made a huge investment to trying to restore and rebuild the housing needs for our country. We have a Help to Buy scheme, a home guarantee scheme, a build to rent scheme, and indeed we've got a $43 billion plan to try to restore some confidence in the housing needs of this country. And understandably so, because I've said in this place on previous occasions, home ownership is one of the most important things that a family can do, because it ensures stability for the individual, for the family and for the local community. But I was pleased that just this week the Albanese government announced that the expansion of the 5% deposit for all first home buyers will now commence earlier on the 1st of October of this year instead of next year. I think that is a very welcome announcement. The scheme works by the government guaranteeing a portion of the loan, which means that the first home buyer can purchase with a lower deposit and not pay lenders' mortgage insurance. That will indeed make a lot of difference to a lot of people. Since 2022, 180,000 first-home buyers have already been assisted with a lower deposit. On the 1st of October, a number of other changes will also take place, expanding the scheme. Firstly, there will be no place limits. All Australian first-home buyers who have saved a 5% deposit can apply. Secondly, there will be no income caps, which means that first-home buyers with higher incomes can access the scheme. Thirdly, higher property price caps will also apply, and that will help buyers where property prices have increased. And fourthly, there will be simpler access in regional areas. The regional First Home Buyers Grant will be replaced by the First Home Guarantee. Madam Deputy Speaker, I believe that they are all welcome steps towards fixing what has been a major problem for so many Australians across the country. Regrettably, in the last 3 years, we haven't had much support from the other side of politics with respect to our housing policies, but I suspect that things are starting to turn around, and I would like to think that the support for re-establishing the houses that we need in this country to meet the needs of the people at affordable prices is starting to take shape. And with respect to that, can I say it's also important to note that our economy is starting to stabilise, inflation is starting to come down, unemployment rates are still relatively low, wages are going up, and all of those things will make a difference to people's ability to purchase their own home. It is true, and I accept some of the opinions, because I have to say, when I listen to the debates with respect to housing, everyone has a view as to what the solution is. Everyone seems to be an expert at it. But the truth is that there's a lot of truth to a lot of the comments being made. But when you put it all together, it's also true that each decision has sometimes consequences that were not foreseen. And so trying to get the balance right is not always easy, but I believe that the Albanese Labor government is doing that. In the last 2 minutes, can I just touch on some of the other issues that I think are so critical to this term of government and which were referred to in our election campaign and which the Albanese Labor government is now getting on with, because it is indeed a very ambitious agenda. We have already the legislation passed through Parliament to reduce higher education fees by another 20%. Again, a very welcome move out there in the electorate. Protecting penalty rates is another critical issue, because it ensures that people will get increased wages, or at least get the wages that they are entitled to, and not lose money as a result of changes to their employment conditions. Reducing the cost of medicines, a bill that was debated in the Parliament only up until this morning. So critical to so many people. And quite often I have people say, so what are you doing to help with the cost of living? Can I say, Madam Deputy Speaker, reducing the cost of medicines pretty much affects everybody in this country, and in some cases to a very large extent. And that's one of the critical differences that is being made in terms of a system with cost of living. We then have, of course, the real wage increases that have come about because of the changes in industrial relations policy by the Albanese Labor government. Strengthening Medicare, and I could talk at length about all of that, but again, our investment in restoring and securing the Medicare system in this country is, again, not only making a difference to people's ability to access the health care they need, but it's also making a difference to their out-of-pocket expenses as a result as well. We've increased child support in the last Parliament, and our commitment to our climate change targets remains strong, as is our investment in renewable energy. As members would hear our Energy Minister each day talk about, if nothing else, the home battery take-up, which is around 40,000 across Australia in such a short space of time. And again, I was with the Minister at Tendo Solar in my electorate only a few days ago, and can I say another great example of an investment we're making in building solar panels here in Australia. And our support for veterans, which is something that I've been passionate about since being here, is something that I also welcome. Time has run out, but can I say I'm pleased to be part of a re-elected Labor government that has a real agenda that will make a real difference to the lives of all Australians.
I thank the member for Macon, and I invite the Minister for Small Business, International Development and Multicultural Affairs.
Thank you very much, Deputy Speaker. Deputy Speaker, it's the greatest honour of my life to serve as the member for Cowan, and I want to take a moment to thank the people of Cowan for once again placing their trust in me. Every day I carry that responsibility with both pride and humility. I stood for election way back in 2016 because I believe in fairness, in opportunity, and in building a community where everyone belongs. And over the past years, I've worked every single day to deliver on those values in Cowan and in Canberra. And when I was first elected in 2016, I vowed to be a strong voice for our diverse and hardworking community. Nearly a decade later, and I'm still here, and that principle still guides me. From Greenwood to Balladura, from Westminster to Lansdale, in Balga, Darch, Warwick, Nullamurra, Alexander Heights, Marangaroo, Wangara, Madley, Hammersley, Kandoola, Malaga, Dianella and Stirling. The Cowan community reflects the very best of Australia. Resilient families, proud business owners, generous volunteers and people from every walk of life who look out for one another. Together, we've secured investment in safer roads, in new cultural facilities, in school upgrades and in sporting infrastructure. Together, we've built stronger communities, places where young people have opportunities, where seniors can retire with dignity and where families can thrive. As a minister, I've had the opportunity to help deliver national reforms in early childhood education, in youth engagement, and now in my new portfolios, small business, international development and multicultural affairs. As we went into the recent election, the Albanese Labor government made commitments to the constituents of Cowan, not just promises, but plans backed by real funding to deliver for our community. We're upgrading the Girraween Community Hub, transforming it into a modern and welcoming space for families and community groups that provides opportunities for gatherings, education, community programs and services. And I may take this opportunity to thank the City of Wanneroo for all that they have done in getting this project up and running. We're supporting multicultural and faith communities across Cowan, including the Vaishnav Sangh of WA, to build a new cultural centre that will provide a range of activities, including Gujarati language teaching, Vaishnava art, dance, music activities, and celebrating festivals, vegetarian cooking classes, and providing vegetarian meals for the wider community. We're strengthening the capacity of the iconic Mirrabooka Mosque to continue serving the local Muslim community, delivering upgrades for the mosque itself, creating a new space for educational programs, social events and broader community engagement activities. And again, I pay heed to the Mosque Organising Committee, to Sister Fatima and to Sheikh Mohammed for their work in creating a space at the mosque for the community. We're supporting the Macedonian community, a large part of Cowan, to mark their 40th anniversary. What a milestone. And the Perth North Tamil School to support the Community Language School to commemorate 3 decades of fostering cultural diversity, language learning and engagement in the community. And we're also investing in the Multicultural Services Centre in Mirrabooka, providing funding for the construction of a second story that will host a number of activities, including things like upskilling workshops for women from multicultural backgrounds, a visual arts exhibition for emerging artists, community storytelling, poetry and related activities. And can I also thank the Multicultural Services Centre, who I've long had a long relationship with, for the work that they do in servicing the multicultural communities in Cowan. But we're also protecting our local environment, something I know that many Cowan residents are incredibly passionate about. We're backing in the City of Wanneroo's biodiversity plan, investing in environmental upgrades in Balladura and supporting native animal rescue so they can continue protecting and rehabilitating our most vulnerable fauna. Having visited native animal rescue several times, I am in absolute awe of the work that they do and the contributions that they make to our community through their rescue efforts. And if anyone in Cowan hasn't visited them yet, I guarantee you will not regret it. Our support for the people of Cowan extends well beyond election commitments, Deputy Speaker, with a range of grants helping our community to thrive. Through the Stronger Communities program, the Albanese government is delivering for community groups, supporting everything from sporting clubs and multicultural services to youth programs and environmental initiatives. And our volunteer grants program has provided funding to 17 community groups in Cowan, including family centres, sporting organisations and toy libraries, ensuring that our dedicated volunteers can continue to do their invaluable work. And at this point, I also have to thank those members of the Cowan community who formed the committees that decide on the allocation of grants based on community needs. They themselves are providing a very valuable volunteer service to Cowan in ensuring that the needs of the Cowan community are met and reflected in the way in which these grants are delivered. All of these investments reflect, essentially, who we are in Cowan. We're diverse, we're inclusive and committed to protecting our environment for the generations to come. But, Deputy Speaker, our government is not only delivering for Cowan. As much as I'm proud of the fact of delivering for Cowan, we're actually also delivering for communities right across Australia so that no one is held back and no one is left behind. We're providing cost of living relief with tax cuts that mean every Australian taxpayer gets to keep more of what they earn. And from the 1st of October this year, everyone in Cowan and across the country will be able to buy their first home with just a 5% deposit. This is going to cut years off the time it takes to save for a deposit, helping people into their own homes sooner. And I know that in places like Lansdale and Darch that are still growing, there are still many, many people who are moving into those areas, building their first home, getting the keys to their first home, being able to move into their first home is a real milestone in people's lives, particularly in the lives of young people. And so I know that this 5% deposit scheme is going to benefit so many people. And I encourage people to come and move into Cowan, come and build in Cowan. It's a great place to live and we have a beautiful community culture there as well. We're investing in education, ensuring that every child has the absolute best start in life. We're creating jobs and building skills for the future with more apprentices and apprenticeships. Free TAFE places, which I know at the Balga TAFE that's situated in Cowan has been absolutely a positive experience for those who have chosen to undertake a free TAFE course and who have developed their education and their skills through that initiative. And we're investing in clean energy and healthcare jobs, strengthening Medicare, making medicines even cheaper and expanding access to the PBS, expanding access to medicines through the PBS, while opening more urgent care clinics. We already have one in Morley, in the Ruddock Road Urgent Care Clinic, and I must tell the House and yourself, Deputy Speaker, during the election when I was out door knocking about our commitment to also open a new urgent care clinic in Mirrabooka. Every single person I spoke to had a positive experience to relay to me about their experience with the urgent care clinic in Morley and were over the moon to know that this Albanese Labor government would deliver another urgent care clinic for them in Mirrabooka. We're also improving access to GPs and restoring our health system after a decade of cuts. Deputy Speaker, these are not just abstract policies, and I hear the member opposite let out a deep sigh. They're not just abstract policies. Each and every one of us in this place can tell you the stories that are relayed to them through their offices when they're out door knocking, when they're doing meet your member events or coffee catch-ups with their local communities, about the positive impact that Albanese Labor government policies have had on them, whether it is in access to medication, to cheaper medicines, being able to visit an urgent care clinic and get the care that they need when they need it, whether it is around the tax cuts and getting wages moving again. These are things that are actually making a real difference to the everyday lives of individuals and families in Cowan. They make a difference. They make a difference when a single mum manages to fill a script at the pharmacy. They make a difference when a young couple can finally buy their first home and celebrate getting those keys in their hands. And they make a difference when a small business can take on an apprentice. As we look ahead, my vision for Cowan is clear. I want our community to be a place where families feel secure and supported. I want our community to be a place where every child gets the very best start in life, no matter their background, no matter where they were born, no matter where their parents were born. And I want our community to be a place where small businesses and job creators have the backing that they need to succeed. And at this point, Deputy Speaker, if I may just take a moment of indulgence to mention some of the great new small businesses that are opening up in Westminster, in the very heart of Cowan, where my office is located, at the Stirling Central Shopping Centre. We already have the wonderful Fariha's Beauty that looks after not just my hair, but the hair of everyone in my office as well. And can I just give a shout out to Fariha and Ibrahim, and a congratulations on their birth of their second son, Noor. We have the new banh mi place that's opened. We have a kebab shop that sells, I have to say, probably the best kebabs in Western Australia. We have an award-winning bakery. And we have several new hawkers markets and shops that are opened up in the shopping centre. And having moved into the shopping centre before all of these new businesses came on board, I have to say, bringing the new businesses into the shopping centre has created an entirely different feel for the community. We've now got people coming in, occupying the spaces in the shopping centre, getting together. I walk through the shopping centre and I see people sitting down, mums with their kids sitting down and having a cup of coffee, people who have just finished their shopping, older Cowan residents who have just finished their shopping, sitting down to morning tea with friends. Really, those social connections that are ever so important, but that feel like in an age of digital connection and smartphones and social media, feel like are tearing away at the social fabric of who we are. The importance of small business in not just in the economic benefits that they bring to the Cowan community, but in the social benefits that they bring to our community as well, I think cannot be underestimated and cannot be understated. I want Cowan, and indeed Australia, to strengthen and ground our identity as a country, in a country that embraces inclusivity and that upholds the values that unite us, the values of respect, of equality, of compassion and fairness. Because I don't think you can deny that that's what every parent wants for their child, every family wants for themselves, and what every individual aspires to, as they aspire to fairness and equality, compassion and mutual respect. And when I think about the Australia that I know, when I think about growing up playing cricket on the streets of the suburbs of Western Sydney, and when I think about those days when nobody cared where you were from, nobody cared that my skin gradually got darker and darker and blacker over summer as we stood out there on the hot tarmac, legends of Aussie driveway cricket. And as each of our mums came out, as the sun went down, and yelled out our names for dinner, each with a different accent, Greek, Italian, English, Irish, New Zealander, Egyptian, right? None of us cared. None of us kids cared. As long as you could chuck a ball, stand with your legs hip-width apart and yell out, "How's that?" you were one of us. That's the Australia that I know. That's the Australia that I remember. That's the Australia that we can be. That's the Australia that we can be. An Australia where we all belong. Where we all belong because we know that we all share the same values. So I want to take these last few moments, Deputy Speaker, to once again thank the people of Cowan. When I first got elected to this place, I remember my very first election campaign. As a newbie to politics, I had no idea what running an election campaign was. Absolutely no idea. And I remember on the day before election sitting around with these volunteers who to me were strangers. I'd never met them before running for office. And I was in absolute awe of the fact that these were people who didn't know me but had given up so much of their time and put their faith in me and believed in me even at times when I didn't believe in myself. And so I stand here almost a decade later, trust me, didn't think I was going to be here that long, and I'm still in awe of the people of Cowan and how they continue to put their faith in me. It is not something that I take lightly, and it is not something that I take for granted. For every day that I am here and every day that I have been here, I have raised the issues that matter the most to the people who have sent me here, the people of Cowan. And I'll continue to do so, because as I began my speech, so I end my speech here today. There is no higher honour than representing Cowan in this federal parliament. Thank you.
The debate is adjourned and the resumption of the debate is made an order of the day for the next sitting, and I call on the member for Menzies.
I move that the Federation Chamber do now adjourn.
I second the motion.
I call on the member for Bradfield.
Deputy Speaker, today I'm here to talk about two topics that are close to my heart: climate action and superannuation. These might seem unrelated at first blush, but when it comes to Australia's future prosperity, climate action and superannuation are very closely linked. And before I explain how, let me set the scene. As of June 2025, the total value of assets in Australia's APRA-regulated super fund accounts was $3 trillion. And that rises to $4.3 trillion if you add other types such as self-managed super funds. Whichever way you cut it, Australia has one of the largest superannuation pools in the world. For argument's sake, by comparison, the federal budget this financial year is just $786 billion. And separately, most people in this place would agree that we need to retool the economy at pace, shifting our reliance away from energy produced from fossil fuels to energy produced from renewable sources. In other words, we need to electrify what we can and derive electricity from the sun, wind, water, plants and other renewable resources. Now, there are wildly different ideas about how much it will cost to electrify Australia's power system. Last year, the Australian Energy Market Operator put that cost at $122 billion. And soon afterwards, the economic advisory and consultancy firm Frontier Economics put that figure closer to $600 billion. But for argument's sake, let's just take the middle ground at $300 billion to electrify the energy system. And now let's recall that Australia's superannuation funds are charged with investing $3 trillion worth of our super savings. That is a mere 0.1% of Australia's APRA-regulated superannuation savings that could be retooling the country's entire domestic energy economy. And super funds want in on this once-in-a-generation opportunity to transform our economy. They want in from the point of view of helping their members contribute to the popular goal of finding climate solutions, and they want in also for the epic economic and financial opportunities that this presents. Now, Andrew Lill, who's the former Chief Investment Officer for REST, said last year that the transition to a lower carbon economy and to net zero emissions is a huge and historic investment opportunity. Not only will it provide strong long-term outcomes for members, but it will also help create the world we would like to see our members retire into. So why aren't Australian super funds bankrolling energy transformation? It's because of something called the Superannuation Performance Test. And the test was designed to protect members and weed out underperforming funds. The test imposes a benchmark for the returns super funds are required to earn for their members. If a fund fails to achieve the benchmark 2 years in a row, it is not allowed to accept new members into the fund. The benchmark is currently regulated, requires by regulation that favours short-term returns on investments. But infrastructure assets of the future, solar farms, large-scale batteries and other low-carbon projects have very different capital and return over time profiles from toll roads and airports than the current benchmark represents. And that is the high upfront capital costs and low ongoing operating costs, making climate-focused long-term investments such as these struggle to meet short-term backward-looking benchmarks. The current benchmark, frankly, is not fit for the 21st century. And as the Australian Sustainable Finance Institute has noted, that the test is significantly constraining the ability of super funds to adopt green and finance investment strategies at scale. Every day, the current rules are in place and these future-focused investments are delayed. Australians are paying for the price of slow, clean energy deployment as higher than necessary power bills. Minor, responsible updates will allow our super funds to invest confidently in tomorrow's economy while protecting members' returns today. And with the stroke of a pen, the benchmark roadblock could be removed, freeing billions in private capital, supporting projects governments cannot alone fully fund, while helping balance the budget. And so I'm delighted to hear that the Treasurer, following his economic roundtable last week, said that he was going to have another look at the superannuation performance test. And Treasurer, I urge you to do that soon. This small, legislatively simple change to the test is exactly the kind of low-hanging reform fruit that could turbocharge climate action and superannuation investment returns for millions of working Australians today and into the future.
Thank you. And I call the member for Gilmore.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Well, one of the most wonderful things about being a local MP is getting to talk with and support so many fantastic community groups and organisations right around my electorate. The amount of time and effort people in Gilmore pour into their communities is truly inspiring, and I am always thrilled to get out and about to see what they've been up to. I'm so proud to have delivered a financial boost through the Albanese Labor Government's Stronger Communities program to 9 South Coast organisations. These 9 groups, from scouts to soccer clubs and a wonderful local theatre company, will share in $112,000 to help them support our communities. I dropped in to visit the volunteers at the Sussex Inlet Marine Rescue Unit, who will use their $17,962 grant to upgrade their radio room. The grant will allow the ageing radio room to be refitted and radios, computers and phones to be replaced with current state-of-the-art communications equipment. With an influx of new members and existing members keen to become radio operators, it is vital that the service has a dedicated space and equipment that is fit for purpose. The Sussex Inlet Marine Rescue volunteers do such an incredible job keeping local and visiting boaters safe all year round, but particularly over the summer holidays when the population swells. With around 70 active community members giving their time, I was really pleased to be able to help out with a grant for the upgrade in appreciation of the wonderful work they do in Sussex Inlet and beyond. The Sussex Inlet Chamber of Commerce has also received a $15,000 boost from the Stronger Communities program to equip the local community event centre with an energy-efficient heating and cooling system, as well as solar panels to help reduce running costs. In the north of my electorate, a grant will assist the Kiama Downs Surf Lifesaving Club to upgrade their female, gender-neutral and parent room amenities, while the Jamboree Youth Hall will also receive help to install solar panels and air conditioning. I'm really pleased to be able to assist the Nowra-based Albatross Musical Theatre Company with a grant to replace audio-visual equipment to enhance their wonderful local performances. The company provides incredible opportunities for budding thespians of all ages to tread the boards, and in November they will celebrate the group's 50th birthday. The Bomaderry Scout Hall will receive an injection of $3,448 to replace ageing lights with high-efficiency LED lighting, which will help lower running costs and reduce the group's carbon footprint. In the south of the electorate, grants will help the Milton Ulladulla Panthers Football Club purchase first aid kits and a stretcher for the 10 female teams, while the Moruya Soccer Club will install defibrillators at their playing fields. Deputy Speaker, I was really impressed when I visited the volunteer-run Rally for Recovery op shop at Tomican, which will soon enjoy a new accessible shed thanks to an $18,500 grant from the Stronger Communities program. The Rally for Recovery volunteers are so hard-working, creative and generous. Over the past 25 years, they have raised more than $4 million for the Sydney Children's Hospital Foundation. What started out as a car rally has morphed into a fantastic op shop where people can grab a bargain for their house or garden while reducing landfill and, importantly, helping kids with cancer. I dropped in with the Minister for the National Disability Insurance Scheme and we had a look at the old sheds they are operating out of, and yes, we grabbed a few bargains while we were there. The upgrade will mean that people with disability can volunteer more easily, connect with the community and take part in the wonderful fundraising efforts at Rally for Recovery. I can't wait to see their brand new shed completed. Organisations like Rally for Recovery, Marine Rescue and the Albatross Musical Theatre Company support and engage people in our communities, whether that is through sport, music, social activities or keeping us safe. The Stronger Communities grants deliver small infrastructure projects and equipment that support local groups and encourage participation. I congratulate the 9 recipients and thank all the volunteers that give their time and skills to help create vibrant, connected and, of course, stronger communities right across Gilmore.
Thank you, and I call the member for Lyne.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Friday the 22nd of August was a very important day for one of the key primary industries in the Lyne electorate, National Forestry Day, recognising our forestry and timber industry. And despite successive attacks on it, primarily from the state and to a lesser extent the federal government, it is still a key industry, directly employing more than 5,500 people and providing a revenue of $2.9 billion per year from North East New South Wales forests and a further $1 billion in value add. This is an industry behind our timber supplies for housing and infrastructure, construction, transport and manufacturing. Timber is the key input in cladding, panelling, flooring, decking, building, fencing, furniture, pallets, paper and cardboard, agriculture, bridging, power poles and mining, and the list goes on. Timber is a primary product and a primary industry. As such, we need it and we need to look after it. The people in this industry are experienced professionals who understand the science behind productive, regenerative, healthy and sustainable resource ecosystems. They are not merciless, indiscriminately chopping down trees. They operate carefully and consciously. These are the ultimate eco-aware operators, working in the most sustainable industry that is also among the most highly regulated and scrutinised in the world. Governments of all political persuasions need to rethink their traditional negative stance on the industry and instead recognise the infinite value and legitimacy of forestry. Their policies need to start to reflect the reality of forestry and not the ideology of those opposed to it. A federally funded social licence research report undertaken in 2023 by the North East New South Wales Forestry Hub indicates that there exists overall support for the native forest industry on the New South Wales North Coast. Support for its retention was 69%, with just 17% wanting its closure. Those figures are no surprise to those who take a good, deep look at the industry. I truly wonder how many of its opponents in this building have gone out into the bush, visited the harvesting sites, talked with the foresters and harvesters, talked to the timber mill operators and workers, and sincerely engaged with how this industry operates. This is an industry that has and is responsive to concerns about its practices. It has worked hard to address community concerns and earn the social licence I spoke of a moment ago. The alternative is not plantations, as is often peddled, as many species are not able to be grown in this environment, like tallow woods, turpentine and ironbark. Nor should imports be seen as a replacement product, timber that often comes without the same environmental and harvesting standards that we impose on our own industry. Through forestry, we can ensure active and real management of our forests. We can create biodiversity and habitat outcomes. We can foster carbon sequestration. We can produce a sustainable, renewable resource for our country and indeed the world. But the publicly owned government forests are shrinking, thanks in large part to the New South Wales ALP, which, in seeking cheap votes, changed the tenure of state forests to national parks. Consequently, between the Hunter and Tweed rivers, there is more than 2 million hectares of national park and less than 400,000 hectares of state forest. That's a 5-to-1 ratio, and it will be growing to a 6-to-1 ratio with the so-called Great Koala National Park to come. ABARES, in its most recent report on Australian wood production in June, said that about 0.05%, or 65,000 hectares of Australia's native forests, are harvested in any 1 year. Deputy Speaker, there's an obligation to our constituents and to the nation to explain the impact of these decisions on timber supply, jobs, businesses, the cost of living and housing supply. And we should not forget that part of the revenue generated from utilising native forests goes back into their ongoing management for timber production. Further, what better nature-based solution is there for the global ambition on climate than native forestry? As trees grow, they absorb and lock away carbon in all that cellulose, and then after harvesting and processing, that carbon is stored away in the array of timber products in our economy. The sequestration cycle is then repeated with regeneration. It's a virtuous cycle, not a vicious one. The reality is very different to what has been conjured up by the activists and the far left. And National Forestry Day is the day to acknowledge that reality, that the native forest industry is an invaluable contributor to Australia's economy, environment and social fabric.
And I call the member for Moore.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. I rise to acknowledge the volunteers and community clubs who are the heartbeat of the electorate of Moore. The coaches, the managers, the treasurers and the committee members who keep our kids active and seniors connected and our suburbs strong. Across Australia, the Australian Sports Foundation is making it easier for clubs to access targeted help through its Smarty Grants portal. A single place to apply for rounds that put equipment and uniforms in the hands of community clubs quickly and with low admin. These are practical grants that lower costs for families where every dollar counts. Right now, I want to highlight the Swish Sports Stars grant, delivered with the Australian Sports Foundation. It provides up to $5,000 in sporting equipment for eligible, volunteer-run clubs with members aged 20 or under. Equipment, not cash, shipped to your club so you can get straight back to training. Applications are now open and now close at 12 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time. We might need to change that, but anyway. Via the ASF Smarty Grants portal. If your club is thinking about applying, this is the week to do it. For local clubs in Joondalup, Kingsley, Duncraig, Hillary's, Callaroo and Mullaloo, here's how to be competitive. First, check the eligibility and create or update your club profile on the ASF Smarty Grants. Second, be specific. The number of balls, safety gear, training bibs or nets you need, who benefits, girls teams, all abilities programs or juniors in growth suburbs. Third, have your ABN incorporation details and 2 quotes ready so assessors can see value and readiness. My office can help confirm eligibility and finalise your application this week. This Sports Foundation equipment in-kind model is backed by partners so clubs can stretch budgets further and reduce fees. When a club receives gear, participation rises, volunteers spend less time chasing funds and the focus returns to coaching, safety and inclusion. That's the kind of smart, targeted help communities expect from governments and partners working together. Deputy Speaker, in Moore, these programs matter because our clubs are not just places for sport. They are the hubs of community life. At the Kareen Netball Club, young women and girls develop confidence, fitness and friendships on the court. At Whitford's Hockey Club, generations have played together, from juniors picking up the stick for the first time to seasoned players representing WA. I'm looking at you, Len Collier. And the Joondalup District's Cricket Club, where boys and girls learn teamwork and persistence, and where parents and volunteers turn a Saturday morning into something more than sport. And the Joondalup Bowling Club. Our seniors stay active, connected and competitive, demonstrating that sport is truly lifelong. These are the clubs that would directly benefit from low admin, practical grants, and the whole community benefits when they thrive. But sport is only part of our volunteering story. Through the Australian Government's Volunteer Grants Program, local not-for-profits can access small practical grants for equipment, training, screening checks, communication tools, and this year, insurance, recognising the real cost of volunteering. Expressions of interest are managed through your local federal MP's office, and my team in Joondalup stands ready to assist eligible groups. These programs work because they are simple, targeted and impact-focused. They cut red tape, back volunteers and lower barriers so more kids can join a team, more neighbours can get support and more community groups can thrive. To every coach, treasurer, registrar and volunteer across Moore, thank you. If you lead a club or community group, please do two things this week. One, jump onto the ASF Smarty Grants portal, confirm your details and, if eligible, submit your Future Stars application by Sunday night. Two, contact my office about the Volunteers Grants program so we can line up your documentation and flag upcoming rounds. Deputy Speaker, this is what practical support looks like. Targeted help, low admin burden and real benefits at the clubroom door. It's kids in new uniforms who feel they belong. It's volunteers focused on people, not paperwork. And it's community life from Belden to Craigie, Currumbine to Padbury, Sorrento to Ocean Reef, getting stronger week by week. And to any club who needs a hand with the Smarty Grants or the Volunteer Grants program, get in touch. I'm here to help. Thank you.
Thank you, and I call the member for Balmain.
Thank you very much, Deputy Speaker. The Volunteer Grant Program is more than just funding. It is an investment in the people in my local community who give their time, their skills and their efforts to support others. The volunteers in my electorate are the quiet achievers, running local sporting clubs, supporting seniors, engaging young Redlanders and strengthening community pursuits of every kind. I'm pleased to report that community organisations in the Redlands received $66,225 in funding distributed between 36 local community organisations for the 2024-25 volunteer grant round. This funding included $4,000 to support the Redlands Special Olympics to support their volunteers with first aid training and fuel costs, $2,000 to the Redlands City Raw Basketball to assist with junior club volunteer training and scoreboard equipment. Many community groups will be directing the funding towards insurance costs to ensure their volunteers are covered. The Redland-based Cyclones Rugby Union Club received $1,500 to support the club with insurance costs. The Capalaba District Junior Rugby League Club will receive assistance with insurance costs to the tune of $2,000. The Redland Bay Men's Shed will receive $2,500 to assist with their public liability and professional indemnity insurance, which will enhance the Men's Shed's ability to serve the local community. Live, Learn, Survive will also receive $1,000 for a similar purpose to cover volunteer-run workshops educating children in water and fire safety, first aid and resilience that otherwise would not be provided in local schools. The Mount Cotton Scout Group will see $2,000 towards insurance that will ensure that Scouts have funds available to assist in upkeeping facilities. Other groups that will benefit from funding insurance for volunteers includes $1,500 for the Cuchimudlo Island Coast Care, who do an amazing job protecting the emerald fringe on the beautiful Cuchimudlo Island. The Redland District Committee for the Ageing, who will receive $1,500, and Redland City Bands, who will receive $1,000 to fund not only insurance costs but also electronic audio and visual equipment. The Night Ninjas and the Redland Bay Women's Shed will use $2,500 for IT and to contribute towards software purchases. The Girl Guides at Wellington Point and Cleveland are both receiving $2,500 each to support volunteers with administration through the purchase of IT equipment such as computers, laptops and tablets. And Meals on Wheels, who perform such an important role throughout every electorate in this place. Meals on Wheels will benefit to make sure their mission of providing that daily connection and caring conversation and support for those in need will continue. The group at Capalaba will receive $2,000 and $1,500 each for the Meals on Wheels at Cleveland and the Victoria Point Redlands group, who celebrated their 50th year anniversary last year, and I was pleased to be at that event. They'll also receive support for new IT equipment. Other community groups that will also receive a share of this funding to assist their volunteers with IT equipment include $1,500 to Redland Museum, $2,000 to the Victoria Point Sharks AFL Club, $2,000 to the Redland Bay Cancer Council branch, which is one of the biggest fundraising branches in Queensland. Redlands Hockey will also use $2,000 in funding for IT, as well as to invest in first aid and safety for their volunteers. Here's to Life Redlands, Breastfeeding Advocacy Australia Redland branch, and both the Cleveland Conference and the St Rita's Conference of St Vinny's will receive $1,000 to assist in IT equipment and volunteer training. Sport and recreation equipment is also being purchased through this latest grant round to support sporting clubs across the Redlands. This will benefit our volunteers by having equipment they can use to train our young sporting athletes. This includes $1,200 to Blues Union Netball Club, $1,500 to Redlands Cricket, I'll be there on Saturday, $2,000 to the Redlands United Football Club. Other community groups are focused heavily on volunteer training and education to equip and upskill. These investments include $2,000 to Redlands Touch, $1,500 for Headspace Capalaba, and $1,000 for United Community Services for educational equipment. There are also many others who are going to be benefiting through this grant round, including $1,000 for Crime Stoppers Bayside, Amity Point Community Centre and eWatch Shoreline. Redland volunteers are the heartbeat of our community, and I'm proud to support their extraordinary contributions.
Thank you, and I call the Minister.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. And I haven't had much of a chance to get up and speak post-election about the election itself, so I want to take this opportunity to do that today. And I'm honoured to be standing here today as the re-elected member for Eden-Monaro, which I believe, and I'm sure there might be some contestation, but it's the greatest electorate in the country. And to the people of Eden-Monaro, thank you again for your vote. I'll continue to spend every day working to represent you and fighting for the best outcomes across our community. Whether you're on the coast or in the snowfields, whether you're up in Goulburn or down in Googong, I'm here to represent you in our nation's parliament. Campaigns aren't easy. They are long hours and unpredictable weather, particularly in our part of the world, but the positives far outweigh the negatives. And I want to thank some people who have helped us during this campaign. Can I start with the true believers in Eden-Monaro, the most supportive branch members a candidate could ever wish for. Their energy and support got me through the months of campaigning in some extremely cold weather at times. Thank you both to the New South Wales and ACT Young Labor groups for their support and for all the doors that they knocked on and the phone numbers that they called. Their enthusiasm was contagious across our team, and I'm really grateful for all the free time that they gave up in our campaign for a better future. I want to thank the United Services Union, the Australian Workers Union, the Transport Workers Union, the Rail, Tram and Bus Union, the Health Services Union and the Shop Distributive and Allied Employees Association for their continued support. The Labor Party is a party of working people, and the work you do every day to make our country fairer for working people is extraordinary, and let me say it's an honour to stand alongside you and have your support. I'm also honoured to receive support from many locals across Eden-Monaro who aren't Labor Party members, but community members who felt compelled to join our campaign. So a massive thanks to Rusty, to Rocky, to Peter Lindbeck, Gillian Southwell, Frank Pangallo, Tony Wood, Jenny Cruz and many other friends who gave up their time for our community. You're all amazing people who always put your local area first. I also want to give a shout out to Ricky Stewart. Your support was appreciated, and I'm really excited to see what these next few weeks will bring for the Raiders. Really looking forward to watching the sold-out match against the Tigers this weekend, up the Mighty Milk. And I want to say a big thank you to New South Wales Labor, to Dom Offner, David Dobson and Callum Bain for all their hard work and support. You always go above and beyond, and this time was no different. To my campaign team and my staff, it's definitely been a journey. We've got memories that will last a lifetime, and I feel incredibly fortunate to have been able to spend so much time with you all. So to Leanne Coleman, Stephen Quilke, Noah McMillan, Adam Busselman, Julia Laurie, Joe Riley-Fitzer, Peter Brown, Laura Egerton, Angus Mounsey, Dorothy Steinbach, Chris Patterson, Laura Adam, Noah Hardy, Kate Scott-Murphy, Danielle Condon, Rebecca Duncan and Blake Denelzak, thank you so much. You're an incredible team. Your dedication and belief in me is unwavering, and the future is brighter because of the work that you do. Massive shout out to my family, to my husband Brad, to my 3 kids Ruby, Max and Jack. You put up with mum travelling a lot, but there is no place like home, and that's wherever you guys are. Deputy Speaker, there was a lot on the line at this election. We were dealing with an opposition who couldn't be trusted with Medicare, who wanted to cut free TAFE, and who were seeking to divide our country. They wanted to slash the public service, which would have had a huge ramification across the community that I represent. But people of Eden-Monaro rejected that. They voted for strengthening Medicare, for more urgent care clinics, for cheaper medicines and more tax cuts. They voted for a government that was intent on uniting the country, and a government that focuses on what we have in common, not what sets us apart. I'm honoured that the Prime Minister has expanded my ministerial responsibilities, adding emergency management to my role as Minister for Regional Development, Local Government and Territories. And as the Mayor of the Bega Valley Shire during the devastating Black Summer bushfires, I saw firsthand the impact that a natural disaster has on regional communities. In fact, there were 9 declared natural disasters in my time as Mayor. And what many people might not know is the only thing that put out our Black Summer bushfires was a flood. So I know what it's like to live through events that are back-to-back, and I take the responsibilities of Australia's Emergency Management Minister very seriously. These events aren't going to go away, and they have been getting more frequent and more intense. In this role, I want to ensure that we are investing in preparedness and building more resilient infrastructure. I want our communities to be in the best position to respond and withstand these events, and I'll be working hard to deliver for Eden-Monaro, for Australia, each and every day.
Thank you. The question is that the motion be agreed to. All of those that of the opinion say aye. The contrary, no. I think the ayes have it. The Federation Chamber stands adjourned until 10:30 a.m. Monday, the 1st of September 2025.